Hello.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Maria. I think we've got all 7 board members here. I'm just trying to count my Hollywood Squares screen. 1, 2.
Yeah, on my end, it says connecting to audio. That's why.
4, 5. Where's Ralph? We're missing Ralph. Let's wait a second for Ralph. It's a good time to tell folks if you're joining us for the meeting. Now's a great time to hit mute on your screen if you're just watching. Kind of reduces the noise in the background for everyone.
John, can you hear me?
I can hear whoever just spoke. Is that Claudia?
Yeah, I was just having trouble with the audio, so I just make sure. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. All right, folks, we're waiting for one more board member, but we're going to begin the meeting in just 1 second. Okay. So we'll do our call. So thank you all for being here. We'll do our call to order for our May 7th Santa Monica Board of Education meeting. I believe 6 board members are here. We are just waiting for board member Metcher, who will join us shortly. Sarah Warrenbrook, if you see the note from Vanina, our interpreter. I'm not quite sure what we have to do with that.
That's me. Hold on.
Okay. In the meantime,
let's see.
We will do what I think is the oddest part of our Zoom meetings for school board is we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance in our home.
Wait, John, hold on 1 second. I can't seem to find the translation option.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
We'll conduct our business with the pledge and everything in the meantime, and then when we get to the business of the meeting, if we haven't done it yet, we'll pause then.
Oh, Ben, you're the host. Can you make me a host? And then I can do it.
Hold on for 1 second.
Okay. And while we're doing this, if everyone can rename themselves to be their full name.
I'm trying to find
At the bottom of the screen, it should say participants, and then it brings up participant list, and you can find my name and, oh, you know what? Hold on.
manage participant.
Find,
No.
You already are the co-host, Sarah.
Co-host Sarah.
I know I need to be the host in order to do translation.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I wanted to manage participants.
Yeah, so you should see one that says
So I'm gonna do.
Sarah W.
Yeah, I see it. I'm gonna do
So
make it host.
Yeah.
All right. Don't forget, I'll need you to change it back to me later on.
Yes.
Okay.
And so now I should, hold on. I should be able to, oh, never mind. Hold on, I can fix this. Wait, sorry. Okay, now I'm the host. Interpretation, there we go. Okay, hold on. Let me make. Vanina, are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, just need to make sure.
She said yes in the chat.
Okay, wonderful. I think interpretation is working.
Okay.
Okay,
That
sorry
being
about that.
said, we are now going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. If, like me, you are wearing shorts, make sure you don't stand up in the camera. Stand.
Or your pajamas.
Yeah, and Ralph is, please note that board member Metcher has joined us. Place your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. I don't know why that just seems so silly to me as we all do that at home, but we're doing it together. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved from Maria, seconded by Oscar. All board members, including our student members, in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Wonderful. Our agenda is approved as submitted. We have one set of minutes for approval from April 1st. Do I have a motion to accept as submitted?
So
So moved.
moved.
Hey, John,
Who got that first?
I just had one question.
I know, we're going to do that in a second, Ralph. I want to find out who moved it, though.
I did.
Maria moved it.
Richard.
Who was second?
Richard.
For second? Okay, and then, so then comments, Ralph.
Yeah, just the one comment. Oh, let's see. On item 5, where it talks about McKinley, my suggestion is it reads, they approve that the board approve the request to receive a waiver from SED standards for McKinley. It doesn't really adequately describe what we actually did. Let me turn to it.
Which number was this, Ralph? Remind me. I'm looking at it.
It's I apologize, I'm going back to it. It's on page
Number 5. I see.
number 5.
How would you, Sarah Warrenbrock, if you're here with us, how can we state this to read that more accurately reflects board member Metcher's suggestion?
Sorry, you'll have to restate. I was trying to fix some technical issues. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking for it myself.
It reads, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the request for a waiver from McKinley Elementary School to run a school-wide Title I program for the 2021 school year.
So I would just say it should read, excuse me, approve the request to receive a waiver from SED standards for McKinley to run a program. I mean,
Is Jacqueline on?
So I'm wondering if we can just restate the recommendation to read that the board approves the recommendation to submit a waiver to run a school-wide Title I program for the 2021 school year for McKinley Elementary School.
okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
That way, or do you want us to specifically?
no, that's fine. But
Okay.
the distinction is that we're not approving it. We're submitting for that request.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Great. So with that one correction or adjustment, so to approval of minutes, so we will go through the board. Oscar, you guys give me a thumbs up and I'll call it out if you want. Oscar's a yes. Maria? Yes. Lori?
Yes.
Kimya?
Yes.
Mia?
A yes, but
Yes.
I was a yes.
Okay, I saw, yeah. Craig?
Oh my God.
I can't see you, Craig.
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that is, the minutes are approved with the one amendment.
You didn't count my vote, John.
Oh, sorry, TJ. TJ, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Great, so the minutes are approved, and now I have a few things to read out from closed session, so please bear with me. DN 1013-1920, final settlement agreement. Kindly note the summary of the settlement is as follows. The district agrees to conduct an early triennial for student inclusive of the following assessments: psychoeducation, including social emotional, speech and language, occupational therapy, and adapted physical education. The district agrees to fund educational services provided by non-public agency not to exceed $6,400. The district shall pay reasonable attorney fees not to exceed $7,700. Motion by Lori Lieberman, second by Ralph Metcher, was approved 7-0. DN 1014-1920 final settlement agreement. Kindly note that the summary of the settlement is as follows. The district agrees to fund educational services with non-public agency in amount not to exceed $4,000. The district shall pay reasonable attorney fees not to exceed $2,500. Motion by Lori Lieberman, second by Maria Elena Vasquez. This passed 7-0. DN 1015-1920 final settlement agreement. Kindly note that the summary of the settlement is as follows. The district agrees to reimburse parents in an amount not to exceed $3,000 for an assessment. The district agrees to fund and provide student with a full-time one-to-one non-public agency aide. 3, the district shall pay reasonable attorney fees not to exceed $8,000. Motion by Craig Foster, second by Maria Elena Vasquez, again approved 7-0. Sarah, just a bookkeeping note in the first part, line 1, we should change the word no to not, an amount not to exceed $3,000. DN 1016-1920 final settlement agreement. Kindly note that the summary of the settlement is as follows. The district agrees to fund an independent educational evaluation, IEE, in the area of neuropsychoeducation and speech and language. The district agrees as compensatory education only and not as part of an IEP or subject to stay put. The district agrees to reimburse parents in an amount not to exceed $10,000. The district shall pay reasonable attorney fees not to exceed $14,500. Motion made by Richard Terwilder and Jeswin, seconded by Craig Foster, and passed 7-0. That's all we have to read out from closed session. On that note, we will move to Board of Education commendations recognitions, and we have an Earth Day climate presentation. I know we said that our board meetings were really going to be about just the necessary business of the district, but it'd be nice to have something that sort of takes us back to normal, and I think this recognition commendation will be welcome for all of us. So who will be presenting, Ben, do you know?
It'll be Mr. Kerry Upton.
Kerry Upton, take it away, Mr. Upton.
Hello, hi, Kerry Upton, Chief Operations Officer, and I'm actually going to introduce Austin Toyama, who is our Sustainability Coordinator, and he's going to take us through this poster contest. And Sarah, am I showing it, or so can I be a host, or are you doing it?
I have made you a co-host.
I am a co-host. Okay, great. I am putting it up now, and Austin, take it away.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for giving me some time here to share about one of our most recent student engagement initiatives. I recently started as the district sustainability coordinator at the beginning of March. And since then, I've been coming back and forth from the office, but it's been a great time. It's been interesting so far with this whole pandemic. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little info about the Earth Day activity and the poster contest that we hosted. Carrie, could you go to the next slide, please?
Maybe, maybe not.
There we go. All right. So as most of you probably know, April 22nd marked the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which it was a monumental day for raising awareness and just drawing support for the global environmental movement. And we wanted to do something for the students, even though they're at home distance learning. So in honor of Earth Day and to try to engage students, we organized this poster contest. Our district sustainability plan emphasizes education and engagement type of efforts that will encourage action and promote sustainability within the community. So the goal here was to engage students at home during spring break while they're distance learning, and then get them to create something meaningful and consider sustainability and a sustainable planet in the process. So on the left here is the contest flyer that was sent out to our district parents and students and principals. And on the right is the press release that was announcing the winners. The contest was set up for students in transitional kindergarten to 5th grade. And the idea was to draw or digitally design a poster and submit it, showing what a healthy, sustainable planet looks like to them. The theme was titled My Sustainable World, and those words had to be present somewhere on the students' posters. They were separated into 2 groups, so we selected 2 winners from the transitional kindergarten to 2nd grade group and 2 winners from the 3rd to 5th grade group. Myself and the Green Team committee parents acted as judges and selected these winners. And then the winning artwork was showcased on the district webpage and our district sustainability Twitter and Instagrams. Could you go to the next slide? So here's one of the winners from the transitional kindergarten to 2nd grade group. This was Matthew Cesavo Menichetti's poster. Let's see. He was from Webster Elementary and a 1st grader, I believe. Go to the next one. Here we have Mael Daniels, a 2nd grader. Next one. This was Annalise Sebastian. I believe this was the 3rd to 5th grade group, one of the winners, and she was a 4th grader from Roosevelt Elementary, one of the few students who did a digital design. And then the next slide. This was Zoe Shen, a 5th grader from Roosevelt Elementary. So pretty awesome work. These were the 4 winners. We got some good feedback from the community and a lot of good submissions, so it was pretty tough to choose. But with the school closures, we were just happy to provide a fun way to engage students and get them to think sustainably while they're at home during this whole pandemic. So yeah, thank you for the time.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, I am not muted. Thank you so much, Austin. We really appreciate that. And it's great seeing the kids do this wonderful work. Carrie, did you have something to add before we move on?
No, I feel like it's great. We're moving forward, even during this time, to think sustainably.
Great. We had a timestamp item for 5:30 that we will take now on our agenda, and that is for item J1, major action item J1, public hearing on 2021 Measure R parcel tax CPI adjustment. I do want to stress that this item is about the CPI adjustment, not the item itself, which will be coming back in June for a final approval. This is about the CPI. With that, I believe Melody Kennedy will be presenting this, or?
Yes, that's correct.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Board President, board members, and Dr. Dradi, and the members of the audience. This is actually a hearing so that the board can take comments and things into consideration regarding the rate change for our Measure R property tax levy. The CPI has increased by 3.4%, and the current rate right now for per parcel is $420.75. Based on this CPI increase, we're looking to have an approval in our next item later on this evening for $435.06 per parcel as the assessment of the 2021 year. So I will leave it up to you to open the hearing and allow folks to have conversation or what have you.
John,
Great.
I move we open the hearing.
Great, so motion to open the hearing by Richard. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Lori, and I believe I have to do a roll call, Richard, to open the meeting? Or no?
Probably.
Yes.
Everything should really just be roll call.
Terrific. Yeah, I guess in this new Zoom world. So we'll do a roll call of the board as I see them. Mr. De La Torre, Ms. Lieberman,
Yes.
Ms. Leon Vasquez,
Yes.
Ms. Wachtel,
Yes.
Ms. Afshar,
Yes.
Mr. Tavildar and Jeswin, Dr. Tavildar and Jeswin,
Yes.
Mr. Melcher,
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes.
I am a yes as well. And I didn't see Ashlyn from Olympic. Is Ashlyn with us tonight or no? I just want to make sure. Ashlyn, if you're here.
I don't think so, but I can text her right now.
Okay. If she's, I mean, I know the internet sometimes can be spotty, but
Yeah.
if she is, great. Thanks, Mia. I appreciate that. So our hearing for Measure R CPI is open. Do we have any clarifying questions or comments for Melody? I know we have some public comments. No? Okay. And so, Melody, I have just one clarifying question for you. I know there is some concern from members in the community about the format of the reporting for Measure R as it stands right now. I know that this item tonight is merely about the CPI increase, not about the reporting or the expenditures. But could you address, if possible, how we plan to, or how you plan to address the community issue moving forward?
Sure. So I kind of fill you in really quick. One of the issues out there right at this moment is, I think, a little bit of miscommunication and a little bit different of a process since 2008-09. That's been a very long time. However, Measure R does bring in $12,488,575 in revenue annually. Of that, we have particular positions assigned to that of $6,485,982, and that leaves about $6 million left over of Measure R funds. They're really not left over. Those amounts are actually going towards teacher salaries. I think there might have been some confusing too. I was doing a little bit of research even right before now. I've spent a lot of time on this one lately, but right before we got on camera tonight or on our meeting. And we do have it broken down, and it was taken to the FOC where they actually saw that breakdown. But when we brought it to the board a few months ago, we didn't actually present that piece. So what we're going to be doing is going back to the FOC and putting in more detail as to which teacher groups this is actually going to, the $6 million, the leftover balance, what portion of that's going to go towards what groupings of teachers. Let's say a certain amount goes to K-3 teachers, another certain amount goes to 4-5 teachers, 6-8, 9-12, into that nature. That's the way it was done back in 2008-09. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it hasn't been done quite like that. It states that it's going towards teacher salaries. However, I think just for more clarity and that kind of thing, that's what we're going to be doing. So I believe that the June 25th meeting is when we should be bringing that back.
Great, thanks so much. So hopefully that'll address some of the concerns going forward. I know we have 3 public comments on this item. I just want to state for the three members of the audience, of the community who want to speak to this, the item is about the CPI. If you would like to speak about Measure R in general, we can take that as a general public comment, which comes up after consent. So when we come to you, if you'd like to say, I'd like to reserve it for general public comment, please let us know. Or if it's about the CPI, which is the agenda item, we'll take the item now. So I believe I will pass this to Board Vice President Lieberman. Laura, you're still on mute.
Oops, sorry about that. Oh, this format.
It's like you've never done Zoom before.
Kill us all. We have 3 public speakers on this item, unless Sarah corrects me and tells me there are more. Each of you will have 3 minutes to speak. The speakers I have are Mark Cullen, Ann Hoover, and Laura Ford. So let's take, I'm hoping you're all on here somewhere, even though I can't see you. Take them in that order. So first, Mark Cullen.
And Laura, each member will have 3 minutes to speak?
That's right. That's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And Mark Cullen has been unmuted.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the district is $11 million in the red. now both the administration and the board, who has been warned by the state that they're about to get their district responsibilities taken away from them, are asking for more money in Measure R funds. This is an irresponsible ask. History shows that in the last 10 years, the board has not itemized over $67 million of funds for Measure R. The taxpayers want to know how you're going to use that money because they want to know if we want to give you more money. The measure has very strict language as to what it's supposed to be used for. If the district spent $1, 1 cent on anything other than what is stipulated, that would be very bad. Will the board itemize those expenditures? You're saying yes, but it hasn't been done in 10 years. And until you show us how you use the money, you shouldn't get another dime. Also, why should we give you any more money if you've shown you're not really capable of spending it frugally? When you're short $11 million and firing teachers, yet you're spending on pet projects, it's not your money. This is our money. And we want it to go to teachers, not administrators who, the top 6 administrators make $1.3 million, 6 people. So if you want more money, an increase of that, then I would have to, ask you to look to be more responsible fiscally if you guys are going to ask us for more money. Thank you.
So Lori, do you have the next speaker? Lori Lieberman. Are you frozen there? I believe our next speaker is Ann Hoover. Did you say that already?
Yes, I think so.
Great. So if we could unmute Ms. Hoover. Hold on, and hold on. And all right, we're having some Zoom issues here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you should be unmuted now.
Thanks. I'm going to reserve my comment for H, general public comments.
Great. Thank you so much. So we'll move Ms. Hoover to general comment. So Lori, if you can make a note of that. Thank you. Which means our last speaker on this topic, Lori is still muted. Our last speaker on the topic is Laura, I believe, yes, Laura Ford. So Ms. Ford, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, Laura, you are.
You have to unmute yourself.
Hold on.
I'm gonna try to unmute her right now.
There
Okay,
we go.
I think I'm good.
Okay, now you're good. You're good. You're good.
Sorry, guys. Okay. So hi, I'm Laura Ford. This past month, I've done a deep dive into Measure R. I've read all the audits and all the budget proposals and every Measure R document you've made public. It's safe to say I know Measure R pretty well. I'm asking you to vote no on the Measure R parcel tax increase. Here are my reasons why. There's no reason why we should pay the cost of living increase during these tough times when residents have lost jobs and are struggling to pay bills. How can the district justify increasing taxes on residents during a pandemic? 2, one of the stated purposes of the tax is to, quote, attract and retain highly qualified teachers. Instead, the district is laying off teachers while using Measure R funds for technology staff, which is not a permitted use of the tax proceeds. Why would the public approve an increase in tax when the portion that is itemized is spent on the wrong things? 3, public hearings on Measure R are required to, quote, assess the continuing need for the revenues resulting from the funding measure, and, end quote. And the evaluation will include, quote, consideration of costs of programs to which these revenues have been dedicated. How can the public consider these costs if they are not itemized? Half of the Measure R funds this year, $6 million, are unallocated when the law requires itemized spending. $67 million of Measure R funds have not been itemized for the past 10 fiscal years. The audits, which were supposed to ensure accountability, confirm there was no itemization. We do not know how and where this money was spent. How do we know how and where this money was spent? Why should a tax increase be improved when funds have gone unaccounted for? $67 million. School board, it's time to use this money correctly. Please don't raise this tax until you do so. Thank you.
Great. And Lori looks to still be muted. So I will end public comment for this item, and then I will go to board members. Does anybody have a comment or anything to say on this item?
I move to close public comment.
Oscar had his hand up, so I'm not sure if that's a comment or not.
Yeah, I do want an opportunity to address the item.
Please.
Okay, so we're asking for an increase. It looks from the item, what percent there is?
$15.
$15
a parcel.
3.4% increase, right?
$15, yes.
$15 increase. Now, this will be applied equally for every parcel that is currently being taxed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's no, a larger parcel doesn't pay more than a smaller parcel. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's what we would call a regressive tax. Everyone's paying the same, but some, let's say a hotel in Santa Monica on a certain parcel is not paying a larger amount. It's just paying the same as a single family home. That's correct, right?
Yep, that's how parcel taxes work.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I would like staff to look into is developer fees, and to see how we might be able to increase our revenue that way. I know that's not an item now, but that's something that I would like later on for staff to look into. But thank you for the clarification on that. And then another question that I have: the allegation that we're not itemizing Measure R funds. Is that true? Is that something that staff needs to correct moving forward?
Go ahead.
Yes, we looked into, we were just following the protocol that you board members have approved for the last years since 2008. So that was the last time it was allocated in that way. So in the past, previous administration and previous boards and you have approved it in this fashion. So I know public has called this to our attention. I think board members have requested that we itemize it, and that is why Mrs. Kennedy is going to make sure that it is itemized from this point forward.
Okay, great. That's good. No further comments.
Great. Any other board members? And again, I can't see all the board members, so if board members, if you have a comment you want to put in, and I don't see you, please just hop in, unmute yourself and hop in.
John, it's me, Maria.
Okay, hey Maria.
Hi. No, my only comment is this. As board members, the actual work that gets presented to us is actually, we rely on our staff to present us the items that we're going to vote on. And we assume that in that essence, everything's laid out to what we need to look at, in other words, to make decisions. I think the last meeting, when this issue came up, I did request that whether we could see the itemization for the $6 million. And I think, Ralph, you were also in agreement with me on that piece. And you said you were, and I think the word was that we were going to get a list of the itemizations, and we never did. So I think now moving forward, I mean, so it's now, notice was given to you all at the last board meeting in April. And so I hope that before the next meeting, when we actually, adopt the budget in May or in June, that this information is presented and it's put on the website.
Right, and just to reiterate what Ms. Kennedy said, excuse me, at the beginning of this item, the schedule of the FOC is to meet, because of spring break, the FOC will be meeting either on the 12th or the 19th. I think it might be the 19th, and they will address it at that time. Again, I want to bring us back to the, so again, Maria, you're right, you did request that, and it will be addressed, and it will be coming back to the board before we approve Measure R. We have not approved that report yet. I do want to point out, this item is about the CPI increase. It is about the $15 increase per parcel that we do every year as part of our Measure R open meeting. So, yes, Oscar.
What is the total amount of revenue, if we approve this item, what's the total amount of revenue that would be brought into the school district with the increase, with the 3.4% increase?
You know, it's funny. I meant earlier today to go look to see how many parcels there were.
It's about $450,000.
Okay, so
Or the 500.
And remember too, it's like, you know, if you stop doing the CPI increase, you find yourself completely behind behind that model. The CPI increase is just for a reason. Ralph, did you have a comment, or just wanted to give us the?
No, I did. Two things. One, tonight this is just a public hearing, and we will be voting on this again, correct?
We'll be voting on Measure R again. Right now, we are voting on the CPI.
No, this just says to hold a public. Okay.
The next item will be the vote on the resolution. This is the public hearing.
Okay. So, look, just a comment, you know, while it has been true, and to talk to Maria, I mean, some of it, you know, we got on our March 6th agenda, I guess, there was essentially this breakdown. And it may be because it's been a long time since Measure R was passed. And it was clearly understood at that time where we were a state aid district. We certainly weren't, you know, this allowed us to fund certain items per Measure R, what it states, and the rest, and half that money, this, you know, is now about $6 million, is being used for teachers. Now, people can say, well, you haven't shown us every teacher. I don't think that was ever done, and I don't know that that was ever the intent. But if we didn't, you tell us where to take $6 million out. You can shake your head, but I feel confident that this money has always been in the budget allocated to teachers. And, you know, the FOC can approve a different budget coming forward. The issue of whether, you know, in this time to, you know, to add $15 to what people's property taxes, you know, certainly is something to consider. But as John said, if, you know, this is a compounded item, if we don't pass $10 or $15 this year, then the next time as CPIs go up, costs of paying teachers goes up, we will, over a long period of time, lose millions of dollars. So, yeah, I'm going to support.
Great. Well, support it. Thank you. So, if there are no more board member comments, I will accept a motion to close the public hearing, and then we'll move to the adoption of a resolution. Or not close. So is that Richard? You who said that?
Yes, second. I move to close.
And second by Maria. So just roll call vote to close. Oscar, Lori,
Yes.
Mia.
Yes.
Mia, did I see a thumb? Or Kimya?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
TJ?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And me as well. So the public hearing is now closed, which brings us to major action item J2, adopt resolution 1940, 2020 Measure R parcel tax. Melody, do you want to give us an introduction on this as well?
I think the public hearing probably pretty much took care of it. I could just say to you, as a $15 increase is what the staff is actually recommending at this time. I'll turn it back to you, John.
Great, thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve? That's Lori with a motion to approve. Sorry, a motion, yes. So moved by Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Richard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any more discussion on this item that board? Okay, so Lori.
I just want to say that I support this item. I know it's a very hard time for everybody, but I think it's a small amount of money. And I want to say that as will be clearer when the staff comes back to share what is already in the budget, but may not be clear enough to the public, that money will be spent on teachers, just as the rest of this money has already spent on teachers. Teachers comprise something like 87% I think it is, of our budget. Melody, maybe you could correct me, but it's a large percentage of our budget, and the budget does contain the Measure R allocations in a way that might be, I think, could be clearer to the public, and I think Melody will be bringing that back to the FOC and to the board. But I just want to be clear to everyone that this money goes to support the district and to support teachers in particular, and that's why we're supporting this motion.
Thanks, Lori. Are there any more board member comments on this item?
Me.
Is it Maria?
Yes, Maria.
Okay.
Well, the only thing, I agree with what Lori said. I think that the basic understanding of this is that we have to look beyond this immediacy, because at least as we're looking into the future, we have a drastic look into the future in terms of the economics of this district. And we would be remiss if we as a board are not looking in the future in terms of how we're going to continue to support the education of our children under this pandemic, and the loss of monies that we're going to have as a result of a lot of the cutbacks that we're going to receive from the state and from the city of Santa Monica. So I think that a mere gesture of the $15, along with the clarification from our staff in terms of the use of the monies, I think should be sufficient enough for us to move forward and I think to approve the increase, the CPU increase.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria. Do we have any other board members who wish to comment on this item?
I'd like to comment real quick.
Oscar, hey.
Yeah, no, I think it's real important for us to bring this forward and bring some revenue in to support teachers. I just want to make sure that that's exactly what we're doing, that the funding is being itemized, and that we ensure that we're supporting teachers and not things that wouldn't be appropriate in regards to the spirit of Measure R.
Right. Thanks, Oscar. So on that note, we already have a motion moved and seconded. I'll now do a roll call. Oscar?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Mia?
Yes.
Kimya?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that is 7-0. The resolution is approved. Thank you very much. And now this brings us back to item E, communications, which brings us to student board member reports, opening with Samo High. Mia Wattel.
Hi. So the only thing that's really been going on that's sort of large to speak about is the meeting that Kimia, Ashlyn, and I recently had with Senator Ben Allen. This was a couple weeks ago, and we basically talked about the student voice across California school boards and the different avenues that we can pursue that. And I'll let Kimia speak more on it, but we just want to let you know that that meeting happened and we'll be pursuing that.
That's great. That's a wonderful opportunity. So thank you. So with that, on that note, we'll move to our Malibu High School report with Kimia.
Yes, there's not very much more to say, but I will say that Mia and I are definitely taking initiative to kind of broaden the student voice in the school board, and we're also making progress on trying to create another subcommittee to increase the student voice and like Malibu politics and other things like that. But there will be more coming on that. Other than that, I just wanted to ask. Is there any reason why the chat was disabled?
The chat's being super funky tonight. Normally we can, this really is not meant to be a Facebook Live type forum where people can comment on the meeting within the meeting site. Normally the chat would just be to Sarah, who's the moderator, or to me, who's the board president. Tonight, it's got a mind of its own, and I don't really know what's happening, to be honest.
Okay, I was just wondering.
But yeah, the chat for this was never meant to be like a running commentary on the board meeting. That's not the purpose of it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kimia.
Yeah, thank you. Other than that, nothing else is really
Sure.
happening. All the same.
Yeah, every day like the other. Which brings so Ashlyn is not here with us tonight, correct? Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, where are you? Yay.
Sorry, I don't have my camera on.
So Ashlyn, if you have anything you want to share with us, we will love to hear it.
I don't have anything to add besides the meeting that we just had with Senator Ben Allen. I wasn't really present for most of it because I was having technical issues. So from what I did get to hear about the subcommittee that Kimia and Mia would like to start, I agree with it, and I think it's a really good idea. But besides that, nothing else.
Great. So I actually understood that, which is amazing. And it was Kimia telling about the meeting that, Ashlyn talking about the meeting that Kimia and Mia had. And while she had some technical issues accessing all of it, she felt it was very useful and interesting. And I hope I'm paraphrasing you properly, Ashlyn. And I think it's great that you guys are activated politically and were able to meet with our state senator and Samuel High graduate and former school board member Ben Allen. It's just, which just goes to show you, when you speak up, when you give yourself a voice, people will listen. And if you don't speak up, you'll never have that voice. So I'm glad you guys are part of our group here. Brings us to our union report. Sarah Braff, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I know what you look like.
Oh, you should be able to see me. I'm up there somewhere. Anyway, I'm hoping that we'll start rescheduling the SBAC meetings. It's very important for the community to be able to make recommendations to prioritize where money should be spent and in what order, especially given these times of COVID-19. But I'm really here to talk about Teacher Appreciation Week. And I can tell you right now, even though I don't know who's speaking tonight and I don't know who's going to be in public comment, but I can tell you that 90% of what they're going to talk about is the importance of their relationship with a teacher, the importance of a relationship between a teacher and a parent. These relationships are what makes teaching teaching. What will we hear? When we hear this from our students and teachers, we will realize, I hope, that the most important aspect in facilitating student learning and engagement is that relationship. And while we might be limited right now into how we can reach students online, teachers are finding new and innovative ways to teach students. There are teachers meeting with students on Saturdays and evenings because that may be the only time they can get online. So, how may we show our appreciation to our teachers? I don't think it needs to be with thank yous and pats on the back and $5 cards to Starbucks. I think it needs to start with rescinding the layoffs of teachers. We need our teachers. We need them all. These are excellent teachers. These are teachers that we really care about and are very, very important to our programs and our ability to communicate well with our students. We also need to think outside the box. There are other positions that we have in the district that we may need to think about a little differently, but I do think that we should be able to bring back these dedicated teachers and have them remain a part of our educational family. Rescind the pig slips. Resolutions are well and good, but supporting teachers is day to day. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that. And our next report will be our SEIU report with Chris Mock. Chris, let's unmute you. Hold on, Chris.
There I am.
Yep.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Girardi and the executive cabinet, and everybody else who is attending. Good evening. I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy as we continue to work together to fight the spread of the coronavirus in our communities throughout the state and across this country. SEIU's executive committee, Steward Council, labor management teams, and Local 99 leadership remain fully engaged in discussions with district leadership to monitor and ensure that all safety protocols are followed and that staff are provided the personal protective equipment required for their protection and to reduce the spread of the coronavirus and exposure while they're at work. SEIU received our 30-day notice of layoffs and reductions. We have had conversations at our executive level committee, which has met with the superintendent. We will be moving forward in discussions in regards to determine if layoffs are due to a lack of funds or lack of work. Certainly can't be both, because based on that reason of lack of funds or lack of work, that will drive the conversations we will need to have moving forward. We are concerned about the layoffs in the special ed department, particularly our two slip-up positions, which are our speech and language pathologist assistant positions. Those are going to be a critical conversations that we are going to have to engage in, for sure. SEIU also remains hopeful that we can find alternative assignments for those staff who may be adversely affected. We would also like to thank and acknowledge the efforts of the district and our essential classified staff, our IT workers, our computer techs, who have been working tirelessly to ensure that all staff and students have access to laptops and are connected to the internet access and have access during school closures. They were successful in providing every student and staff member who requested the need with a device and internet hotspot access. No easy feat. Thank you for those who did all that work. Lastly, and most importantly, SEIU would like to end our report in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week. Our certificated brothers and sisters in pursuit of excellence for our communities and students, and the students they serve have accomplished nothing short of a miracle with their efforts to switch to a distance learning model on the fly. It is aptly fitting that this week just so happens to be the week the nation appreciates and celebrates teachers. SEI joins in that celebration to honor our brothers and sisters and the fine work that they do every day in their classrooms, wherever those classrooms are. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Chris. And I think this is a wonderful chance for the 171 people on this chat right now to echo your words of support for the fine people who are working, not just within your union, but with our CTA. So everybody can give them the virtual love for our people are doing wonderful work during this time. This is really not an easy time. And we've got a great staff, which leads us to our PTA Council report with Claudia Seizer. Claudia, are you?
I'm here.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Sorry. Yeah, having technical difficulties on this end, but thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, all the school board members and Dr. Drotti. Good evening. I'm going to read. I wrote down so I wouldn't forget and did not miss anything I really wanted to say. So our PTA leaders are working with administrators and community liaisons throughout the district to come up with a practical and substantive ways to help families affected by this pandemic. Through PTA initiatives like food banks and with individual outreach to support SMMESD families. All our PTA units are working very hard to help families in need in each of their school communities. Also, in relation to the pandemic, PTA Council and our PTA units have not reached their spring fundraiser goals because of school closures and isolation measures. We're all working diligently to find ways to protect planned programming and site support for this coming school year, even while this proves to be pretty difficult for some of our units. PTA Council submitted letters to the Santa Monica City Council and interim city manager from our executive board and from our full council in response to their proposed cuts and eliminations to youth programs and services. The letters outlined our request that SMMUSD and educational specialists to be looped in and brought to the table in order to help find creative and collaborative solutions to the budget crisis. Council asked that Santa Monica City Council, ask them to prioritize the safety and well-being of our children and youth, the Santa Monica's most vulnerable citizens, right? When assessing where things needed to be cut. Programs highlighted were playground partnerships, playground access, and the crossing guards. Our Vice President of Community Concerns communicated these priorities at the Zoom City Council meeting. Council was especially encouraged that Lane Dilg, the interim city manager, reaffirmed the City of Santa Monica's commitment to the Master Facilities Use Agreement in response to concerns expressed by council and others. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, so thank you all teachers who are on this Zoom call. Love to see you. The perfect time to thank teachers for their sacrifices and support for children throughout the year. While appreciation alone will not reduce the challenges teachers face, it will let them know that their efforts are not going unnoticed. As I have a knot in my throat. Potential teacher staff reductions are the biggest topic of conversation for many parents in the district right now. And this is a complex issue, you understand. When beloved and effective teachers receive pink slips in this midst of a pandemic, students and their families grow understandably upset. To build understanding amongst our parent leaders, Dr. Mark Kelly, Assistant Superintendent, and a representative from SMMCTA were invited to speak at our March PTA Council meeting. Discussion ensued, and there were a variety of views expressed. Because clear consensus was not reached, PTA Council was unable to take a clear position in regards to definite priorities for spending cuts. Council feels that it is ultimately the work of the district to ensure that all parents understand the nuances of these reductions to our teaching staff. Currently, these are not being effectively communicated to all parents, and Council asks that the Board of Education and Dr. Girardi remain as transparent as possible, and we encourage timely, clear communication about how and especially why cuts are recommended. We can then support the dissemination of district communication. Lastly, and most important, PTA Council urges you on behalf of all our members and the members of all our units, which there are many parents, to keep cuts as far away from the classrooms as possible at this time. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Great. Thanks so much, Claudia. And I do think that our next item, which is the superintendent's report, will address some of the questions you just brought up. So without that, I will introduce Dr. Girardi for the superintendent's report. I got to get him off of mute. Oh, he's been on mute. There we go.
I have a document to share, so I'm going to try to pull it up. I wonder, Sarah, could you make me the host so I can share the screen?
John is currently the host.
You are the host or co-host?
Co-host can share the screen.
Oh, okay. Make co-host. Sorry, Ben. You're the co-host.
Thank you, John.
That works. Great. It was great to hear from everyone, give these reports. And I'll try to talk a little bit about what is taking place in terms of COVID-19. That incidentally has caught us and every other district in a real tough situation already. And the COVID-19 has essentially accentuated the problems that we were already dealing with. And so I'll start talking about just what's going on with the city and how that implies on us. And I'll hope to address some of the questions that Mrs. Seizer has, which I agree with her. As much as I've gone to the community to try to explain to teachers, different people about the state of affairs with the district, it has become very difficult to try to get people to understand how districts deal with COVID. So with that said, I'll just kind of go through, and I created about 3 slides to hopefully get people to, sometimes graphs work better than just words. Graphics work better. So as you know, the city of Santa Monica has been extremely impacted by COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order. The revenue source that the city has enjoyed and relied on for years has drastically been reduced. As a result, they have a severe funding deficit to overcome this fiscal year and the next several years. The city presented to the council on Tuesday the situation that the city staff presented to the council on Tuesday the situation as they see it, along with suggestions on where they will make reductions for the fiscal year, this current fiscal year, for about $72 million. They also talked about the daunting task of further reductions in the future to a tune of about $150 million. Among the reductions identified include having 400 employees, funding for after-school, homework, sports, and programs, all of which we have come to refer to as CREST. And what is happening in the city obviously has many people concerned, as many things in the city that has been identified can potentially has a huge impact on the district. The city of Santa Monica and Malibu, the city and the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District have and continue to enjoy great partnership in many ways. From my vantage point, the most significant partnership between the district and the city are the agreements the two agencies have together, which are measures, the master facility agreement and measures Y and GSH. To express the significance of this agreement, one has to really understand the revenue profile of the district. In a nutshell, our district receives approximately $145 million to operate, meaning this is to pay bills, to pay staff, to supply instructional materials. This is not Measure SMS or Measure M, which deals with capital funds. This is strictly to deal with operating the district. Of that 145 million, we received 100 million from the state of California under the Prop 98 guarantee. Okay, this is primarily, and about 90% of those resources primarily because what we would call a basic aid district comes from property taxes. On top of that, 100 million, we receive approximately $25 million out of those two measures I mentioned earlier, measures Y and GSH, 15 million and another 9.5 million with a joint use agreement. That is a substantial amount of money that comes from district. As you can see, these funds are a part of the city's profile. So obviously they have to reduce and we have to reduce, but they have to look at everything. So the reason why I talked to the city council this week is to make sure that they understand that this is a priority for us to ensure that these funds continue to come to us. Measures Y and GSH are reliant on sales tax in the business sales tax in the community. I think all of you that live here, if you walk down the promenade, the restaurants, all through the city, there aren't any sales activity taking place. So that 15 million will be impacted. Okay, we know it'll be impacted this year, but furthermore, so that's a concern. And then lastly, obviously the joint use agreement that we have with the city, they have to wrangle with, if they're gonna avoid giving us that money, that means they gotta find the money somewhere else. So far right now, I've gotten commitment that they are not touching that this year, but they will be having conversations around what they have to do to continue to support in that way. The other sources of funds, I know we talked about today, was Measure R, the Measure R parcel tax, which is parcels between Santa Monica and Malibu. It gives us 12 million. We have some lease rentals. We own some property assets that we lease out. It gives us additional 2.4 million. And thank goodness for the Education Foundation, Santa Monica Education Foundation. In a regular basis, they do hand us $2 million to support our operations. I just recognize that that's probably in danger also, just because people are probably going to struggle giving. And then the rest of the funds are what we get from some state funds like the lottery funds and the federal government. I want to now pivot. So as you can see, the facility use agreement, Measure Y and GS, collectively are a huge part of our revenue profile. Okay, so what's happening in the city is a threat to our operations from this point on. Remember, we were already deficit spending by 11 million. Okay, Through our mutual cooperation and compliance with the terms of agreements, the district and the city have provided incalculable benefits to the youth of Santa Monica, including by offering a multitude of recreational programs, enrichment opportunities for students, and recreational opportunities for organizations and individuals who are part of the Santa Monica community. So I sent a letter to Mrs. Lane Dill, incidentally, who has been very courteous to us and in regular communication with me about the importance of protecting these two revenue sources that the district receives. So this is a priority for us. And I stand, and in the same letter, I told the council and Mrs. Dill that the district staff is ready to work with the city, recognizing that they are in trouble on anything we can partner on with some of these programs, whether it be the after-school programs or the what are called those the crosswalk monitors, all those programs that we try to resolve. I do want to point to a chart that I've been showing the community around how staffing works in the district and what school districts do to address their staffing issues. And this is a chart that I've gone to the community and explain essentially our enrollment trend that has existed since 2013 to 18. So what you see here in the light blue colors from 2013 is we've been sustaining a declining enrollment. Okay, right now we're averaging about 200 students a year in decline, and it has not stopped. It probably isn't going to stop because Los Angeles is very expensive to live in, particularly West LA and Malibu. Okay, if you notice during that time, our staffing has increased from 2013 to 18. This is not teaching, this is administration, this is teaching, this is classified staff. So while we were declining, our students were declining, our schools were increasing, our staff was increasing. So the way the a district would normally address declining enrollment, you will sometimes see school closures in communities. You'll notice we happened to do collapse 2 elementary schools in Malibu last year, Point Doom and Cabrillo, and then merged those 2 schools and we formed Malibu Elementary. But districts across the state of California that are declining enrollment, they are closing down schools. But more importantly, the simplest thing a superintendent can do and a board can do is align the staffing to the enrollment. That's the simplest things you can do. And for those of you that don't understand, we have a student ratio that is codified in contract with the teaching union that we cannot break. Okay? So if we get students flooding our school district, we increase staffing to match that enrollment ratio, the student-teacher ratio. At the same time, if there's declining enrollment, you try to address that, okay? And most of the time, if you are lucky, you do it through attrition, retirements, and so on. And at times where you're not seeing retirements, you do layoffs. I don't know a single superintendent in our county right now that's not having layoff conversations. I don't. We were talking to one yesterday in Manhattan Beach, and he was talking about 36, up to about 36 staff. Ours is not going to be that many, although the process we have engaged in it makes it very complicated, and sometimes you have to state more than what you're going to do. But we have to go through there because of the bumping rights and all that stuff that's in the union contract that we have to go through, and us stating where we think we're going to have overstaffing, we have to point that out. And then we stand layoffs, and then we go through the process of working with principals in building classrooms, building master schedules to get to a place where we get the number we actually need, and we will send recensions. We're probably going to rescind everything, but up to about 10 to 15 teachers that have to go through layoff. And we think retirements are coming forward to reduce some of those numbers. But the point is, the only two avenues you got is staff has to address declining enrollment and staffing ratios is through the process that we're going through. Like I say, go to other districts, see what they're doing. They're going through this process. Now, this is not going to solve our issue. I'm gonna be presenting to the board about $7 million worth of reductions for the following school year, which this is a part of. It'll also have administrative reductions. By the way, we've been doing administrative reductions the last 2 years, up to about $1.5 million worth out of the central office. We're gonna look at contracts, we're gonna look at professional learning, but there are funds I'm gonna be presenting to the board next week. But the harder work is not necessarily that. We have to find more money the following year, okay? And I don't know what the pandemic is going to do, but I don't have those numbers yet. So I wanted to kind of let the board let you know and let the community know that these aren't easy times. Yeah, we love our teachers. We love our classified staff. We love our nurses. We love everyone, but we need to be logical. We need to be logical. The numbers just don't add up. And with that said, that concludes the super.
Great. Thanks, Ben. If you could take, let's get off your screen so we can look at our Hollywood Squares thing again. Great. I just want to, I really appreciate it, Ben. There's a lot of information covered in that. And I just want to hit 3 points to make sure people heard what I think is really important information from there. Number one is on May 21st, you're going to come back and present about $7 million in cuts. These cuts will represent a lot of what members of the community have asked for or information about, which are cuts to district office, cuts to consultant, cuts to how we're handling professional development, how we are making a leaner operation while trying to maintain as many classroom integrity as possible. That's a big thing. The second thing you brought up, which is really important, is the city of Santa Monica just laid off, just discontinued 350 positions. The effect of the pandemic is really hitting us in YY and GSH. We don't know the extent of it yet, but it's really affecting the money we had anticipated coming in next year. That's driving a lot of this process. And the third thing I heard you saying there is at the end of, everyone's concerned about pink slips, and we're talking about that later. You mentioned that you believe the number will be closer to 10 to 15 when this is done. And we appreciate you trying to get that down to the lower end. Those are the 3 big points takeaway from there. A lot of information. Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate that. Which brings us to consent. Does anybody want to move consent? I see Craig motioning to move consent. Is there a second? I see Oscar seconding. Does anybody have anything they need to address in consent, on consent? Seeing nothing, I will do a roll call. Oh.
Sorry.
I knew it was going to be you. I knew it was going to, but I can't see you on my screen. What do you got, Ralph?
I got some things I can excuse me, talk about at the end of the meeting. Just my one question, I think here has to do with 7, what number would that be? 18, the Barnum acoustical blinds. You know, I'm all for, I'm a big supporter of the arts and everything. And I'm not sure if we're not scheduled to be, how this becomes a bond, if this is a bond project, why it's there. What is this, a want or a need? You know, these are, I think they're fabric that hangs in the fly to muffle sound. We have them. I've had them for a long time. So I don't know if Carrie can address, because it's an odd project for us compared to all the rest.
Carrie, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
If you could, what's up?
Sure. So Barnum Hall is one of the very few facilities at Samo High that we are not planning to replace as part of the Samo High campus plan. So as with some of the things, we're doing interim measures to maintain, to fix up facilities and keep those buildings to last. There were a few projects at Barnum that we tried to do to make sure that it can continue for its life. This is the third part. We did some adjustments in the ADA accessibility and the foyer and lobby of Barnum. We did air conditioning, and this was the third part. We fixed the chairs, which was a major issue. And this is the third part. It is we've heard this from our music and other users that, you know, Barnum Hall is brilliant and wonderful for orchestras and choirs, but not so much for symphonic bands, rock bands, spoken word, or for film screenings. So this was a project that we did have on our list and has been on the suggested lists for Measure SMS. For Measure SMS that we would try to do on our interim measures. It's been there. It will improve the acoustics for that space. It is adaptable. It won't impact the acoustics for the choir and orchestra, but it will improve them for theirs. In this day and time, it's hard to say what's a need and what is a want. You know, at this moment, we're not needing any theater. We need it all, but we can't use it. So I'm not sure how to really address this question.
Ralph, is part of your question about when will bands and spoken word and films be coming back to us, and do we need to do this now, or is it do we need to do this at all?
Well, it's a combination. Number one is it, as you say, is it a want or a need? And then the question is, I mean, it's not, you know, it's about $100,000 just north of it. So we could do it. It's just partially a caution, as we've just heard in these times, to make sure that, you know, it's a different pot of funds, the bonds, but to make sure we have the monies to do the things that, you know, that we're going to have to, that we have to do. So this is great for the program. It sounds like if we're allowed to start the programs up again, you know, it'll benefit the program. You know, I just wanted to raise it, and I'll talk later in the meeting about some other issues that are similar, that we should have different thinking now, now that we're in the situation we are, about how we move forward with, you know, like furniture purchases and the like, because we don't know what things are going to look like. But if everybody feels comfortable in providing this, you know, then we should do it.
Yeah, Carrie, I think it might come down to we will be renting out these spaces again, and we do see this as a way to increase our lease revenue on that space. Is this something that we need to get going now because we have the opportunity because the school is open, or is this something that you would be comfortable delaying if that were to come up?
This was a programmed improvement and something we've been working on for actually about 2 years to develop. There is no better time than now to do it because we do anticipate that we can get the work done without impacting any of our programs, because we won't be having programs. If you wanted to defer it, we can. We're just ready to do it now. It has been something we've talked about.
Ralph, is this something Ralph, you're a board member. You have the right to pull this off of consent and see if there are 4 people that agree with you to delay this, or if you're okay with what Carrie's presented here and want to move forward. It's entirely your right to choose that.
I appreciate that. No, I'm okay. I just want to make sure, you know, I look at these so that we're all understand why we're doing certain things, and this will enhance student experience when we get back in there.
Yeah, it's that cost benefit analysis and the timing as well. I appreciate it. And thank you, Carrie, for that. Thank you, Ralph. So with that, with no other comments, we've got consent moved. We'll do a roll call. Oh, Oscar, do you have something on consent? I can't hear you, buddy.
Quick question.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to know from staff, because of the pandemic and all that, some of the contracts that we have, I think we can renegotiate to get a better deal, or to get maybe save some funding. I see that the contract with Gold Star, item 2, business and fiscal items, and then it's item 3 and 4. renewal for Gold Star Foods and Snacks. They sent us a letter saying that they are willing to continue the contract, and I was wondering if that is the case also with the contract for which is item 2.2 on recycling, the district-wide solid organic waste and recycling services contract with to American Reclamation. Is that part of is that negotiation, that lesser amount, due to the pandemic, or is it just why are we reducing the recycling services with that contract?
John, would you like to answer that one?
Well, I certainly can. So I would love for you to. Thank you.
Okay, I can address the. We were coming up due for the for our waste pickup and our provider for that. We have not been as excited about our previous waste pickup, and so we did put out a RFP for this for a bid, and this was the group that came in with the best bid. So it was just recently bid, and it is going to improve our recycling, which our last carrier did not really successfully do well. So this will improve that, and also will help us both meet those sustainability goals, but also it does help us with our cost for all waste pickup.
Oscar?
Yeah, no, that's okay. That explains it.
Hey, John?
Yes, sir.
Also, just a comment really on, I guess, less for the JAMS HVAC project, because I believe that that's designed, ready to install, but the Rogers project, which is number 16, designing the replacement of the HVAC systems, that as the engineers are doing this, we should look at whatever new guidelines come out in terms of filtering systems. You know, we've had these discussions before in past projects, and let's make sure that we are really evaluating what's going to be the most healthy systems to put in for our students. It may change some of what we do moving forward on systems and filters. You moved, Carrie.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are definitely looking at that, and definitely looking at how we do that. I will say that most of the air conditioning systems that we have put in, because they are sort of single units, they're more, they're mini splits in most cases as opposed to full package units. It does mean that we're not recirculating air through different classrooms. It's sort of in the one classroom, which really helps in these concerns right now. And we are trying to make sure we're putting in the highest level filters that we can support. Though I will say that that is also matched with an equal challenge of staff to replace filters.
Great. Thank you. So with that, can we now do roll call to approve consent? Great. Oscar? Lori?
Yes.
Mia?
Yes.
Kimya?
Yes.
Is Ashlyn still here?
Yes.
Great, Ashlyn, I heard you. That was a yes. Craig?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Ralph? Ralph? We'll come back to Ralph when he unmutes. Oscar?
I'm unmuted.
Oh, Ralph?
Much to your chagrin, yes.
Oscar is a yes. Now I've lost track of who I haven't gotten to.
Richard's a yes.
Richard Tavildra is a yes, and I'm a yes. So that is 7 plus 3 for consent. Thank you so much. And now that brings us to general public comment. I believe we have 5, and I will move this over to Vice President Lieberman.
Yes, I'm using Sarah's list that she's graciously provided. And so I'm going to call the 5 names. 2 of those, it's not clear because they didn't indicate the item they wanted to speak on. So I would ask you if what you really intended to speak about is the certificated layoff item, which is J5. Please don't speak in public comments right now, because this is for items that are not agendized. And so our expectation is that the people who are going to speak during this time, who will have 3 minutes each, are going to speak to items that are not on the agenda. If they're on the agenda, you need to speak during that item. So without further ado, we have Ann Hoover, Chris Mock, Nita Bayat, Don Hyan, and Sarah Barrett. So again, if what you're really talking about is certificated layoffs, save your comments for later, but I know Ann knew she was wanting to speak in general public comments at least.
Hi, is it okay for me to speak? Thank you so much. So it's just sort of everything. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Hoover, and my family's been in the district for 15 years. I was pretty clear in my written comments to you recently, but there are a few more things to underline and view these through the pre-COVID lens, although I know that COVID has impacted us a lot. Back in 2005, when I was a bright-eyed and enthusiastic parent new to the district, I'd sometimes meet long-term district parents who complain about district finances and how nothing ever changes. And I especially heard of that, a lot of that during the Measure R parcel tax campaign in spring 2010. I was shocked to hear parents say that they weren't going to vote for it because for the reason that nothing ever changes. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing and thought at the time that I would never become so disappointed and so cynical like those parents. Well, I'm not a completely lost cause yet, but I do understand how those parents felt, especially now, as just like spring 2010, here we go again about to fire teachers. Folks, it's just not right. Our community has thrown every kind of money you've asked us for in the last decade, from the district-wide fundraising to the Measure R monies, to not one but two sales taxes and multiple facilities bond measures. Why are we laying off teachers when all we really care about are teachers in the classroom and the lowest possible student-teacher ratios we can get? So we've heard a lot about the budget crunch. You know, the move to basic aid has been bad. Teaching today requires a lot of help from consultants. I'm excited to hear what Ben is going to put forward on May 21st and the terms of cuts that will not be impacting the classroom. But what I do want to say in terms of technology, if we've set it up so that teachers can't teach without the help of a lot of costly consultants, then we have made it way too complicated, especially when proposed Measure R spending, you're going to see just that alone is going to be $2.5 million for technology staff. We also hear about the latest and greatest. Remember Common Core learning? The only positive outcome I'm confident of in connection with Common Core is that its proponents made a lot of money. And now we're on to PBL and Capstone. And listen, I know all of you, everyone's heart is in the right place. But we've got to run a tight ship. This is public money. We've got to get a balanced budget, and we cannot let our heads be turned by every shiny nickel gleaming on the pavement. Measure R spending for next year that's going to be proposed includes $30,000 for a mariachi music program. Maria, I know that one is really important to you, but $30,000 is well over half of what a first-year teacher makes at Samuel High. That kind of extraneous spending adds up. Pretty soon you're running a big deficit and laying off teachers. So please, do not fire anyone tonight. Save these teachers. I can't wait to see what Ben proposes on May 21st, keeping the cuts out of the classroom, and let's get our district's financial ship in order. Thank you and good night.
The next speaker is Chris Mock, followed by Nita Bayat.
Hi, I would like to refer my speaking to Jennifer Engel, who is in SLIPA, who would like to speak to that issue that we were noticed today or on Monday about layoffs. Is that okay?
She did not submit a...
She wasn't able to. They were already closed.
Chris submitted it for her. Normally it would, let's allow this tonight, please.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then I would like to give it to,
you know, in the future, you're not allowed to give your minutes to someone who has also submitted and isn't also present. But obviously she's present and you tried to do that, and go for it.
yeah, okay, so yes, I agree. I understand.
Okay, so Jennifer, if you'd unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate your allowing this. I understand it wasn't typical, but unfortunately I wasn't able to submit in time. So tonight I would like to speak to you all about an issue that's close to my heart. It's coming up very soon. I am speaking about the the layoff of the 2 speech language pathology assistant positions that the district currently holds in its special education department. I've recently been notified that this is going forward, and I wanted to just tell you all about our position because it's such a small group of stakeholders. There are only 2 of us. We are a classified position. We're a licensed certified provider of speech and language therapy to direct to students. And as a small stakeholder group of 2 people, I don't know that there will be very many people speaking on our behalf. So I just wanted to add this in to your attention. The speech language pathology position is a state certified direct provider of educationally related speech and language services to students according to their individualized education programs. We spend every period of every school day providing direct therapy in the classroom. And we cover when speech language pathologists are regularly pulled from their classrooms to attend IEP meetings, professional development conferences, that conduct assessments, perform other unique speech language pathology duties. Speech language pathologists are one of the rare certificated positions who do not get a substitute to cover their missed classroom time. And so the SLPA position, our SLPA position, is critical in upholding the weekly IEP service minutes, which are legally and ethically owed to our most impacted students. SMMUSD currently has unfilled vacancies for speech language pathologists and has a long history of having difficulty keeping those positions filled due to excessive workload and stress. SMMUSD currently has contracted out work to fill 3 speech language pathology positions to staffing agencies at a high cost. And this is a typical state of affairs. Rapid turnover in the speech language pathologist position degrades SMMUSD's ability to offer reliable, consistent, individualized services and care to its students for speech and language pathology. Conversely, the SLPAs are typically long-standing, reliable employees who end up working with students, sometimes from preschool all the way to high school. They develop clinical relationships with students and often are the ones who actually get the agency SLPs up to speed on the communication status, the goals, and the skills of the students on their brand new caseloads. The loss of the 2 SLPA positions does not constitute a large monetary savings to the district and represents a deep loss of community ties, clinical expertise, and highly valued dedicated SMMUSD team members. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And now I can't find the names again. I think it was Nita Bayat. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Hi, it's Neda Bayat.
Nita, I'm sorry.
No problem at all. And this is my first time on a forum like this, so I'm not sure if this is the appropriate position based on what you said before that to speak up. To be honest, there's nothing new to add. I agree and echo some of the concerns around the layoffs. I also understand and empathize with the budget deficits as a result of the pandemic. As a parent who has also been a room parent and close with teachers over the years in the Malibu community, during this time, I would like to see that we have some consistency and stability for our classrooms, for our children, and that the quality of learning isn't further compromised. I can tell already with the distance learning, we've had challenges. And even with the ratio of 1 to 15 to 1 to 20, not all of the students have their questions answered. And just for the future of our community, for that not to have further negative impact, I just wonder what are some of the plans, and including whether we start up as early as July, August or not. Are we going to be doing staggered classrooms, or who's actually coming up with this plan? Because I understand there's a lot to think about.
So thank you, Dan. And just so you know,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
We're not supposed to engage with public comment other than provide ask clarifying questions. I will let you know that this is something being Ben and his staff have been discussing this since the virus happened, and obviously we will be. That's going to be the core discussion going forward: is how and when and what will schools look like going in the fall. So please stay tuned for that and we will communicate that out.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Don Hyan.
Hi.
Here you are.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Andrade, teachers, students, parents, and community members. I want to speak on behalf of the many layoffs the district have been approving, specifically for the SLPAs. The SLPAs at SAMO have been a godsend. They show up, they get their hands dirty, are one of the only people on campus who know what teachers like me are doing to progress their students towards their goals. Ken and Michael know my kiddos. My students respond to them, even more so than some of the SLPs that have come and gone over the years. They are both highly qualified and help the district catch up on the promised service minutes that have sometimes not been met. Jen is nearly ready to become an SLP. I hope the district will instead consider helping her become one for our district. Recently, the district's solution has been to hire someone from an outside agency. From my experience, although intentions of repair, it however prolongs the fact that the ones who work with the population of students in our setting needs people who will take the time to get to know them. Students in high school deserve other options if available. More than just consistency, both Jen and Mike are valuable assets and would be so wherever they are. We need to do the opposite of what's happening. We need to praise and lift up and celebrate the hard work professionals like our SLPAs do, not make them feel expendable and cut down their positions. I truly believe if we consider the long-term effects, having SLPAs in our given situation will save the district money, not take away from it. It will save us from future litigation and complaints from parents because our SLPAs have been part of what worked, not the problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last speaker on this item is Sarah Barrett.
We have to unmute Sarah. Let me try. Okay, Sarah, you're unmuted now, I think.
Oh, yay. Hi, everybody. You'll be hearing from me again for J5, just so you know. But in the meantime, I've been doing some research, continued research since Zoom call started. But I really have a clarifying question, John, regarding the mariachi program, this program, and perhaps you or Maria can speak to it, because it seems to me that spending $30,000 on a program right now feels a little unnecessary, something that could be pushed off for a time when we're not dealing with a pandemic. But I had heard from someone that there was a special grant that we received for that, specifically for that mariachi program. And so I wanted to find out if that special grant covered that $30,000 or if it's a matching grant or how that worked.
I think it's best if Dr. Moore addresses this. I know there was discussion of grants at the city level being reduced and potentially the grant they gave to mariachi being reduced. But Dr. Moore, I think will have more information on this if she is with us right now.
Yes, I am. Good evening. So we have had the mariachi program that started at Edison Elementary School for all of Santa Monica students. So it's been a program that's been growing. So this is the second year of the program and it's now at JAMS Middle School. The intention is for the program to grow year to year so that we can then make sure we have a complete pathway that goes to Samo High within this specific genre of music. We did receive seed grant money from the city in order to get the program off the ground. We've applied for additional grants, but again, we are also ensuring that we're able to continue and grow the program long term. So although we do have some grant monies, it's not enough to cover the entire cost of having our music teachers provide this genre of music beyond the instructional day. So it is something that our teachers are providing to our students here in Santa Monica.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Moore.
Can I say,
John, we're in public comments, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I realized I heard.
I just don't understand why we're engaging public comments.
Because I asked a question. I asked a clarifying question.
but public doesn't
No,
get to
that
ask
was-
clarifying questions.
Okay, so this was my mistake. I brought it up because I misunderstood something. That was my mistake. It's on me. So that should answer the question, even though I should have gotten you the question answered later on. That's me. Blame the new guy. So do we have any more public comments, Lori?
I'm sorry, I keep trying to keep myself muted when
I
other
know,
people
I
are
know.
speaking.
Do you have any more public comment?
That concludes
Right,
the
general
public comments.
Great. And again, so Dr. Mora, if when we're offline, if we can provide more information on this, if there's further questions, we will do so on the mariachi program. Major action items. Discussion item. Consider revising BP, adopting AR 7310, naming of facilities. Carrie Upton.
Hello, yes. Thank you, Mr. Keene and school board. Let me share my screen and start this. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I can't start it beforehand. There we are. Hello, this is Carrie Upton, Chief Operations Officer. I'm bringing to you a question to look at revising Board Policy 7310, which is the naming of facilities and programs. We had discussed this for a few years, and in our current situation where we have budget cuts and challenges with our budget, and also during these budget cutting times, Dr. Dradi did ask my department to look at many ways that we might actually improve and gain revenue. This was something we had discussed before, is that particularly now with a number of buildings about to come online, that we actually have an opportunity to do some additional naming of facilities, and that might actually be able to increase charitable donations to the district. So you have in front of you the board policy and the changes. Just to say, there is no substantive changes to the naming of our programs in honor or recognition, for honorees or recognition. The main section we were updating is the naming of facilities for the programs in reference to a charitable donation. The changes in the charitable donations is that specifying this a little more clearly, that would be something we would do, particularly where people's donations will further the district's educational mission. As part of our way of doing that, we've also put in there that there will be a naming agreement, and the process of that, I'll talk more about that in a moment. And the board still retains the sole discretion to approve any naming opportunities. So the way the process works in the administrative regulations, or the AR 7310, is that we will develop a menu of facilities, often working with a designated group like the Santa Monica Ed Foundation or some representative up in Malibu, that we would develop a menu of facilities that would include, and I'll talk about what's included, but the facility, the duration, amounts, and details. This menu would then be brought to the board for approval. The Ed Foundation or another designated organization would go and solicit people who might be interested in naming facilities. A naming agreement would be drafted, including all the details, and then finally the board would approve the naming agreement. Naming agreements would specify the benefits to the district, state roles and responsibilities of all parties, detail the facility or program being named, clarify the duration of the naming, and stipulate the donation payment schedule, itemize the planned expenditures, and provide parameters for any signage or acknowledgements. This was what would be in a naming agreement that'd be brought back to the board. So first you'd approve the menu, which gives the opportunity to go solicit what would be happening, and then a naming agreement would be brought back to the board. The naming agreement would also clarify any prohibitions, such as certain organizations or groups that we would not be looking to put their name on a building, termination rights and rescission rights, particularly, in these cases, we usually have some form of a morality clause you know, if we, at some point it's not useful for those names to be on the buildings any longer. Just a sample menu item we'd bring towards you. One of the things that's about to come online is the Performing Arts Center at John Adams, the rehearsal room. The rehearsal room is a standalone building that sits outside that is for rehearsal, but also be used for community meetings. We might say this is a rehearsal room for a 20-year duration, a $3 million donation, and it would fund music and dance programs and also maintenance of those facilities. And this is the idea that we would bring to you. So what we're asking tonight is that you would discuss the approval of BP 7310, which is naming of facilities and programs. We would bring that back to you at a further meeting for approval. Once approved, we would begin developing the menu items and drafting the naming agreement template. We would return to the board for approval of the menu and the naming agreement before we would do any solicitations for any donations. After we market those naming opportunities, we would bring those back to the board for final approval. Do you have any questions?
I had to unmute. That's great, Carrie. Thank you so much. So the next step would be if we have questions, we'll get them now. If not, you'll bring them back to us. Lori has a question, so I don't even need to keep speaking.
I just want to clarify something. So if the money were donated via these regulations to name a certain facility, that money would, however, not go into capital funding. It would go into the operating budget, right?
Yes, it would be operational for both programs and for the facilities. What I mean whenever I say facilities is, so like, you know, the operations of a theater, we regularly, in less than a capital amount period, have to change out projectors, technology, lamps, you know, lighting fixtures, and some things like that. And that's sort of an ongoing thing. And as much as we pay for that with rentals, there's sometimes some larger numbers we need to do. So it'd be that type of sort of maintenance and keeping going, maintaining facilities as opposed to capital improvements. And then for programs, it would be in support of what those programs are. So like this program would be for the sample that I said, that dance, you know, a dance program or a theater program might be something that would be supported through this grant.
John?
Yes, sir. Ralph?
Could I just finish? But
Yeah.
Couldn't it be, I mean, since this covers a whole range of facilities, if it were, I don't know, a building, then wouldn't that money go directly into the operating budget? And not to say that, of course, maintenance of that building and all of those kind of things wouldn't go with it, but would it really then have, I mean, it wouldn't sort of belong to a particular program at that point.
Perhaps let me just add to this. Looking at this, consider this as us getting new revenue into the operations. You know, we know we need to update our facilities through our general fund. We know we need programs. We need so I don't want us to get tied on to specifically this money's coming to operate on this specific thing. We have needs to make sure that our facilities are taken care of. What I think the goal of this whole thing is to try to bring revenue into the system, into the programs. And if, for example, we're going to go elicit people's supports, whatever is sexy about would attract people to want to donate and give money because we have specific programs or things. I think we go do that. So I don't know if we need to really explicitly state that this will go this here, go there. We know we have those needs, but I guess I'm looking at it as a fundraiser. If you're a fundraiser, how do you maximize the amount of money you can?
Okay, Laura, so if you're done, I have Ralph, then Craig, and then Oscar. But Laura, are you finished, or are you?
I'm finished.
Okay, so Ralph, Craig, Oscar.
Okay. So I keep losing Carrie.
I'm here.
I think this is, and Ben, into what you just said, you know, is limiting us. I mean, donors come, you know, to places, particularly to, you know, educational institutions, even cities, you know, with things that they are interested in. I don't, you know, I think the issue here that Carrie's raised, which is a good one, is that if somebody gives us money to build a new auditorium or a new health center or whatever it is, that there's money included in that for, you know, operations maintenance of, you know, of a program, you know, and the building. But I don't think we're saying, I'm not supportive of just saying the only things we want money for is to establish programs and, you know, and keep the buildings, even if they're current buildings, because if we can get people to donate money, you know, for particular buildings, that lessens the burden that we would potentially ask the community for, you know, for capital improvement, you know, tax measures that we would ask them for. So I don't want to limit us this, and I think, you know, I thought the idea is that if there are potential donors, you know, that they work with the nonprofit to help establish what that would be, the parameters of that would be, and that the amount of money that might go to different pieces of this, you know, will be determined through that conversation, because the donors, you know, have to feel good about, they have to feel that they're being listened to and responded to in what they want to do. It has to meet our criteria, but I don't want to limit this to for people not to support the building of new buildings or remodeling buildings that are maybe, you know, it could be just for that, and then for helping on the maintenance of them or particular programs. I don't think today we should say we only want money, you know, for this one thing. And it was a little, if you're agreeing with me, Carrie, I'd say so, because it seems
yes, Ralph. And in the AR, it very specifically says that the donation shall constitute a significant portion of either the total cost of the building, facility, or property to be named, or shall provide ongoing funding for the operational expenses of the building and facility. So we have that listed as a possibility. And I think we can definitely accept, if somebody would like to build us some buildings, I have a list of buildings we need built.
I know. That's why I said that to you.
Yes.
The other thing, maybe if I finish this, is to talk about the rescission portion of this, because I think that's important, that we all understand that if somebody has donated money and it turns out that their credit rating is bad, or, you know, they do something or something occurs in that person or person's history, that we have the ability to terminate the relationship, and we may or may not have to return funds.
Yes, and it says in the AR, first of all, if they cannot meet whatever agreement it was, you know, if there was a payment schedule that said they will pay a certain amount every year and they fail to meet that, then we could rescind the agreement. But also, we do have you know, if the approved name becomes inappropriate because of subsequent felonious acts of moral turpitude, failure to meet the financial obligations, or any other factor which discredits the district or is contrary to its educational mission. So it does put in there, and we'll get exact language that will be in the naming agreement that our legal team will help us craft to make sure that we have that opportunity if it became necessary.
So the last thing on that is that it says about giving money back. I guess if we haven't spent it, that we would either return it or give it to a different nonprofit or agency that can be directed. But if some of it, let's say, goes into an endowment to pay for, you know, maintenance and operations over time, how do we determine if they get the monies that are still in the bank?
The AR does say the district shall have no obligation to return such proceeds that were spent, incurred prior to the rescission of the naming agreement. So if we've received the money, then we have no obligation, and we'll work out the exact details. And when we come back to you again, once we've developed once you've given us the approval of this policy, we will go out and we will create a drafted naming agreement, and we'll bring that in some way back for the board to approve so that you already know exactly what language is. And we just didn't want to pay lawyers to help us develop that until you say yes to change the policy.
Great, thank you.
Great, so we will go to Craig and then Oscar.
Yeah, so I think my comments speak to some of the discomfort I think I heard in Lori and Ralph. I think the documents, I was expecting more. Well, let me start by saying I'm excited about this. I think it's a great opportunity. I think it is something we should be doing. I also think it's super fraught with pitfalls. You know, whether it's who you let name what, how much you let be named, right? Because it could be as simple as buildings, and then Carrie's example is sort of a freestanding building, but sort of a room, you know, and we know there's places where seats in auditoriums get things put on them. So there's this whole broad range. And really almost more importantly is when you set a price on something, you've created a market that you then, I think, kind of have to stand by. And my guess is universities are really good at this, right? This is the water they swim in. And I would imagine that, Carrie, you've worked with major endowments, hospitals, universities around us to try to understand what they do. I don't see that in this policy. And I'm really uncomfortable because I am now getting to be around long enough to see how things go wrong. And I would be very afraid that if we approve this policy, we would find ourselves backing into premature decisions with regard to actual choices rather than really understanding what we're prepared to do and then just opening the market for who wanted to come in and name things. So personally, I would much prefer to hold off, and if you were to bring the menu when you bring the policy for revision. And I, as one board member, would be happy to say I'm fully supportive of the intention of these, the AR and the BP and the change in policy and the naming and the creation of a menu. I would also suggest, whether my suggestions adopted, to hold off on approving the BP and the AR or not. I would suggest that we appoint a board subcommittee, whether that's the folks who are the Ed Foundation liaisons, or whether it's the facility subcommittee, or whoever we all feel like assigning this task to. But I'd like to see 3 board members involved in the discussion of creating that menu, because I think it's really fraught and complicated and needs to be done right. And I think there are best practices to steal from. But you know, to the kind of concerns Ralph raised and the kind of concerns Lori raised, we could back ourselves into a corner pretty easily on this, all in the name of trying to do something great. Even to, are we trying to funnel this money toward operating or toward capital, is a really big question, right? And how do you work something like that out? Never mind the split between maintenance and funding programs. And funding programs is then different than naming buildings, because funding programs is what we take grants for. So if I'm going to give a grant to the Ed Foundation to support a particular thing, do I get a free naming of a building or a room for doing it? So I think it's super complicated, and I'm uncomfortable passing the BP and the AR until I see the menu. But I would like to hear what my fellow board members think about that. But I certainly think we've got to make sure that we are crystal clear on that menu before we do anything at all or entertain any sort of conversations with people. Thank you.
Great. Oscar?
Yes, no, I want to support comments made by my colleagues on this item. I don't want to see a lot of corporate, logos up everywhere. I think the the policy will allow us to vet, people and names and so forth. But I think to the point of what Craig was saying, it's like, the building, let's say the cost of a building, and even the one at John Adams, I mean, it's in the millions of dollars, let's say, right? I mean, it might be what, $30-40 million, but yet a $3 million contribution will get your name on the building. So I think it's really important for us to understand also how much money are we talking about. And then I heard that, Carrie was talking about that the naming of buildings would be for new buildings that we need to construct, but then there's also, we're opening this up to buildings that are already constructed. So anyway, very important for us to look into the language also of like, if some, and it has it in there in the AR, but strengthen it so that we don't end up in a situation where people make complaints about people years later. I mean, we're seeing it right now, in cases of, sexual harassment or child molestation, or like a lot of these allegations come years later. So it's real important for us to have language in there that protects us so that we don't, end up making a big mistake that we regret.
Great, thanks, Oscar. We haven't heard from Maria on this. Maria, did you have anything?
Let's see. No. I've been listening, and I agree with the point that Craig made. I would want it to see if we can hold off and push it to the next meeting so that the whole menu comes back to us.
Yeah.
So I would rather see that because and also the process in terms of naming, because that was my big thing the last time around when we named the buildings that we didn't follow a process, and we're not there yet because I don't think we have one yet. But I would rather see that in the naming, in the amounts of money, and what buildings are we talking about? Because I do agree with Oscar. There's certain, we wouldn't want to have corporate sponsors, but yet we did name, the track for one of our beloved teachers that passed away. So,
right.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets brought out that I think we just need to kind of vet it out more than just tonight, and have like a 15-20 minute discussion about it.
Mm-hmm.
But once we have everything in front, I would rather continue it from there.
Okay, so from what I hear, Carrie, and again, fellow board members, this is only a discussion item tonight, so we don't have to take any action. Carrie, I think from what I hear from the board members is the trepidation really is around, the devil in the details, around the menu, how we, like Oscar said, and I think, Oscar, I think what Carrie put up was the rehearsal building, so it wasn't the full, I think you were talking about the price, but you bring up the good point. How much do you have to put in to get the naming rights for something, like the value of it, the spread on that? So Carrie, I think if you want, I'd like to hear from you, Carrie, what board input would help you in crafting that menu, or would you rather go back and work with the people that got you to this point and then come back and present again, or would you rather have a small group of board helping you? What would be the best path for you?
We wanted to the idea was to bring the policy so that we knew sort of the framework we were working in. And then that would also give us direction to go and spend the not inconsiderable amount of staff time and also some legal fees to take it to the next level. So if you want to hold off on approving the policy, then we do need direction from you that says, yes, go do this. Then you'll see probably in a consent agenda, a retainer for legal to do the legal work on this. And it would be helpful to have a 3-member group of board members guiding this process. It has been stated in some conversations that would be the board facility subcommittee, but it doesn't really matter which 3 you want to head this way. It's just, it would be helpful to have some guidance to get into the nitpicky details.
So the question comes down to, would the board be comfortable talking about this at a future meeting to approve the changes to the BP and the AR, the philosophical changes to what we're doing? I think if we bring this back, we'd be bringing it back in June, which would give the board plenty of time to submit questions and ask Carrie and his team questions about the BP and the AR. I would be, and then work on the menu and the specifics is what Carrie's talking about down the road. Carrie, did I hear you right with that?
I would like us to get going on this only because We have some, the ideal time to name a new building is when it's about to open. And we're opening buildings in August and February and next August. So we want to get going. So mostly if I could get direction that this is someplace we want to put staff energy and time, that this is something we want to move forward, or I don't know, what direction would you like to give us?
Right.
Can I make a suggestion, John?
Yeah, please.
Maybe if we have a majority of the board who says we think the BP and the AR are in the right neighborhood and the intention is in the right neighborhood and the devil's in the details, so bring it all back to us more fully cooked and we'll decide on it. But yes, we like it and we'll hold off on making any decisions until we see the whole thing. But what we've got so far seems reasonable based on the devil in the details. I would have one caveat to that though, given everything else we talked about before and after. I'm not sure I would be comfortable authorizing the legal fees, because I think what we're asking you to do is to create a menu, not to create the documentation. You could say we need to create a recidivism or whatever you called it thing, and leave that as a dangling thing that once we approved it, you would go get a lawyer to do. But I would rather you do this with staff time rather than consultant time. But that would be my suggestion, John, is we just say, yeah, we like it, bring it back more fully baked.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Craig, that I think the spirit of this is I'm on board with that as well. And I think you've got the right direction. So, yeah, Lori.
The lawyer piece is a part of, is for the eventuality that we want to rescind an agreement. Is that right, Carrie?
No, it would be for all of the language that would go into the naming agreement, to make sure that we have appropriate language that binds this, and it would most likely be a three-party agreement between like us, the Ed Foundation, and the donor.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to work out all those details before someone like Linda goes and starts seeking donors.
Right.
We want to both know what it is you would accept, that's what the menu is, and what the agreement would be, because once she goes out, she wants to, it helps to have what it is you're going after.
So would it help to speed this up, to have a board subcommittee to work with you? Or is that irrelevant at this point?
Yes.
All right, then I think the best way to go then moving forward is to have the facilities group, which is Lori, Craig, and Ralph, work with Carrie over the next couple weeks to see if this indeed can come back for the 21st. I'm not sure it will. I'm not sure if we'd have time on the 21st. Maybe it comes back our first meeting in June. I think there's support from all the board members on the idea behind this, and if you three get in with Carrie and team, we'll have something concrete when we bring it back. I don't see it happening on May 21st. I think it's going to be the first meeting in June.
All right.
So that's what we will do with that. Wonderful. Unless somebody else has any more comments from the board. Great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody's work on that, which brings us to our major action items. Ms. Lieberman is going to read a couple resolutions for us. I will turn the meeting over to her.
Is anyone going to give a staff report, or you want me to launch right in?
Great.
It's J3.
Probably Dr. Mora, maybe? I don't know.
Or if not, I can just say that what is on the agenda is the resolution in observance of the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, but I don't know if any staff members wanted to speak to that in any way.
No, we haven't prepared anything. Normally in these, you guys just read it. So unless we change the protocol.
Okay. So that is the resolution that's before us. And I will read the whereases, but this is something that we've done before. It's something that we do annually, and unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity to have like a student-led presentation or anything. So, without further ado, the whereas, well, it's the now therefore be it resolved that during Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District joins with all Americans in celebrating this rich and diverse culture and encourages all members of our community to recognize the important role of Asians/Pacific Americans in creating and building this great nation. Be it further resolved that appropriate lessons and units of study about the contributions of Asians and Pacific Americans take place in our schools not only during this month, but throughout the school year.
Wonderful. So is there a motion to approve this resolution? I see Craig, I see second from Oscar, and we will roll call. Oscar?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Me, I'm a yes. Mia, you still with us?
Yes.
Kimya?
Yes.
Ashlyn?
Yes.
Wonderful. Did I miss anybody? I feel like I missed a board member. No, great. So that is 7 plus 3. That passes. We have adopted that resolution, which brings us to Major J4. Adopt resolution California Day of the Teacher. I don't know if Dr. Drotti, you can introduce this, or if Dr. Moore, or if this is for Ms. Lieberman to read.
Yeah, obviously this is an important the resolution. We want to honor our teachers that have worked very hard, particularly during this pandemic. I think this is a time in which I think the nation is actually recognizing the importance of education and that we are essential in everything. So we want to take the opportunity to honor our teachers with this resolution. So I'll have Lori just read it.
Okay, I will read the be it resolved clause. And I just would remind everybody that, well, the be it resolved clause will mention that Day of the Teacher is May 13th, which is next week. And so obviously, outside of adopting this resolution, anyone is free and I would say urged to let their teachers know how much they're appreciated in this time and at all times. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District Board of Education does hereby urge the community to recognize Wednesday, May 13th, 2020 as Day of the Teacher by taking time to remember and honor those who give the gift of knowledge through teaching.
Lori, before we adopt this resolution, I know this is personal to you with your daughter teaching 3rd grade. Could you just share briefly some things that have been done for Jenny during this time? Because I think it matters.
Well, my daughter, who teaches 3rd grade in San Francisco, received the parents and students in her class put together a compilation of something from each child, sort of thanking her. It was so sweet. I actually think a parent has sent me something like that was done for a teacher here. There are all kinds of different ways now with remote learning that people are connected in ways that they weren't before. So the upside of it is they can share with each other and classes can sort of get together to say nice things and do nice things for their teachers. My daughter had one parent send a note to the superintendent of a huge school district about how much, this is a woman who has triplets, how much she appreciated all the 3 teachers and all the work that they're doing for her kids. So, there are any number of ways that people can express themselves, but I just want to urge all of us, because we represent our community and we know how much our teachers are appreciated, but there's nothing like hearing it from your own students and your own parents. And I'll stop there.
Would you like to move the item?
I would, but I think at least I can see Ralph wanting to speak to it. I'm happy to move the item.
Okay. Ralph.
Great, and I'll second it if it hasn't been.
Yeah, okay, so moved by Lori, seconded by Ralph, and then you have a quick comment?
In reading, I just actually wanted to add a couple words, if I may, to strengthen it in a way. Because as strong as it is, there are a couple things which I think it isn't doing strong enough. So in the second whereas, where it says the great global pandemic and its impact on teaching and learning has greatly changed education. Change to impacted, because we don't know what the what the changes are. I just think it's a better word. And then on the whereas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, teachers strive to make every classroom an exciting environment. I would add in there and make every classroom an alternative learning space, an exciting environment, because what's going on is it's not in a classroom per se. And I think it's important to recognize what teachers are doing, and how broad it is. It's sort of it's not a physical space. And then whereas California teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, mentors, I would just like to add after role models, innovators, because what they are doing now truly is innovative. And I want to make sure that they get on all of these three, that, reacting to the impact of the coronavirus, working in new and different environments, and in being creative and innovative is just so important, that they're just, not that they're just stepping up, but that they are truly, helping to change what education is going to look like, in the future. And, that's really the most important part, that their love and their drive to make sure every student gets the education opportunities that they need.
Okay, so Laura, you had moved that. Are you okay with those?
I was just going to say, that's all friendly, sure.
Okay, wonderful. So if Sarah did not get all that, I will have Ralph email it to her for the final resolution.
I'm good.
Yes, Oscar.
And one little change, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth whereas, it reads, today's teachers mold the minds and train the workforce of the future. Can we add, today's teachers mold the minds and train the leaders and the workforce of the future? So it's not just workforce.
Lori?
That's friendly.
Great. So we will, with those changes, I will now do a roll call on this. I think it's been perfected. Oscar?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Craig?
Yep.
Ralph?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Mia? Mia's? Kimya?
Yes.
Ashlyn?
Yes.
All right, and I am a yes. So that is all of us, all 10. Wonderful. Thank you all for getting that done. And now it brings us to the big one tonight, number 5. I believe, Ben, do you want to introduce Dr. Kelly for this?
So Dr. Kelly is going to come and talk about the process that we're engaged in terms of jobs, and I alluded to a little bit about why we're going through this, but he'll add more and then give it.
We're about to go to our major item with the 25 speakers.
Mark Kelly, would you?
Oops, I was not.
Good evening, everyone, board members, Superintendent Drani, members of the public. So thank you for hearing me. So what is before the board is an item to adopt the proposed decision of administrative law judge, and which is a step in the layout process. So let me give some background to this. I want to reiterate a few points that Dr. Drani stated and expand upon them. So on February 20th, the board adopted resolutions that gave staff authority to move forward with the layout process. I think there's been some misunderstanding about that process. This has been a process that is, the process is really about taking the board's direction in terms of staffing ratios and applying them to enrollment and allocating staff to school sites. It's a process that takes place every single school year. So the board has not changed, and staff is not recommending any change at this time to the staffing ratios. They've been in place for several years now. What we've done, though, is we have monitored enrollment, and enrollment, as Dr. Drotti pointed out, has been on a downward trend. So when we apply the formulas to that enrollment, that results in reductions. In recent years, we've been able to absorb those same reductions that have occurred through attrition, which means it wasn't necessary to notice anyone in order to achieve those reductions. That process is something that goes back a long time. I've been a principal in the district. Every year, someone who was sitting in my seat now met with me and said, okay, this is what your staffing allocation is going to be based on your enrollment. And it comes out of what the board has adopted in terms of staffing formulas and staffing ratios. And so we've done that. The problem is that this year we do not have the attrition, that voluntary separations, resignations, even involuntary separations that have occurred, and they have not really materialized. The district needs flexibility in order to make sure that we have the right staff in the right locations and that staffing is aligned to enrollment. When we don't have that attrition and aren't able to absorb the decline, we have to use the process that the legislature gives us, which is the education code. It is a process of a layout process. It requires statutory notification. It's a multi-step process. It's not one that really the board has a whole lot of influence except for to adopt the resolutions that it did on February 20th. It is primarily seniority based. There is some ability to deviate from that, but it is based on seniority and its process. But fundamentally, this has never been about the board giving staff direction to make cuts for the budgetary purposes. I can't say that in the future that won't be necessary, but to date, the board has not given staff direction to say, cut teachers. We've done exactly what we've done every year for the recent years since my 5 years in this seat, but it's been done prior to that. I was a principal and I went through this process. We've aligned staffing to enrollment. It's just there was no ability to absorb those reductions because we didn't have the attrition. As attrition may materialize, we will continue to assess our needs. That assessment of needs is ongoing on a daily basis. We initially noticed 49 teachers of potential layoff. To date, we've rescinded 20 notices of that. That process is continuing. What this particular item is that as part of the process, teachers may request a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. That is their right under the education code. The district respects that right in that process. That hearing was held last Thursday on April 30th. This item was the opportunity for the board to receive the judge's proposed decision and to adopt that. We're going to ask that you not do that at this time because we just received that the judge's decision this late afternoon, just about an hour before we went into closed session. We don't feel that's sufficient time for the respondents to have read the judge's decision. However, it is likely that we are going to recommend that the board adopt it. So we're going to ask that you schedule a special meeting next week so that you can consider the resolution and adopt the administrative law judge's decision. I've had a chance to read the report. I feel like we can sustain it. What it does, once it's adopted, it allows us to continue with the process. Just the kind of turning point is the next step would be final notices where layoffs will actually occur. Once someone is given a final notice, they remain on a reemployment list. They either retain reemployment rights for 39 months if they're a permanent employee or 24 months if they're a probationary employee. As positions open up, as our need is there, we have the requirement and the responsibility to use to rehire from that reemployment list. We continue to hear from principals and to assess their needs and to make decisions. Dr. Drotti suggested that somewhere between 10 and 15 is likely where we land in total layoffs. That's probably a good estimate based on my assessment at this point. There are some changes that might come about this, some transfers that come about this, but people will continue to have employment. But again, at its core, this is fundamentally about alignment to staffing and enrollment, which is a process that happens on an annual basis. So we have posted the judge's proposed decision on the district's website, so it is available. We have transmitted it to you as board members prior to your closed session. We've also transmitted it to the respondent's attorney, who agreed to accept it on their behalf. And so the two attorneys that represented the teachers will be sharing it with the respondents. So we're going to ask that you schedule a special meeting to consider and adopt the resolutions, but we are going to recommend that you adopt the ALJ's proposed decision as is.
Great, thank you, Dr. Kelly. And I want to reiterate what Dr. Kelly just said, that we will be discussing this item tonight. We will be hearing from the public on this item tonight, and the board can share its feelings on this item tonight. But because of the legislative process and how late we got the report from the judge, we will not be able to vote on this tonight. We will schedule a special meeting on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, time to be determined to actually vote on this item. But we will have a full discussion tonight, hear all the comments and all the board member comments as well. Are there clarifying questions from the board before we go to public comments? We have a good number of comments, so I do want to hear our public out. Are there any clarifying questions?
Yes, I do. I have one.
Yeah, Maria.
Dr. Kelly, you mentioned, I guess you would come back, and based upon the ALJ's, I guess, ruling, will you be coming back with adjustments as a result of it on the special meeting on Tuesday? Right, I guess further clarifying, you said there was 49 layoff orders, 20 were rescinded. Will you have adjustments made on the remaining 29?
There may be adjustments on the remaining 29. At this time, we don't think we will be proposing any adjustments to the administrative law judge written decision. There are a few things that we could argue they're not substantive. On the substantive points, we're not going to challenge them. It may be because as we continue to assess needs that I may be informing you on Tuesday that we have continued to rescind. As a technical matter, if an employee is not, if a teacher is not given a final layoff notice, it is deemed a rescission. Once they are given a final layoff notice, and then we are able to offer them employment, it's considered a rehire at that point. That could happen the very next day after they receive a final notice. It could happen a week later. It could happen 2 weeks later, through the summer, into the fall, through the duration of their reemployment right period. It is possible that on Tuesday I may have some additional information to you which will improve the situation in terms of layoffs.
Anything else clarifying, or can we get to our public comment?
Yeah, John, I'd like to ask a leading clarifying question of Mr. Kelly, Dr. Kelly. So I think it's really important that this be clear. So we have a statutory process imposed upon us by law, which involves pink slips and then the layoff notices that we're contemplating today and will execute next week or likely execute. And that's dictated by the government, and that has some very upsetting elements to it for the people who receive it. We've seen this over the years. People get pink slips. It's very upsetting. The pink slips are rescinded. In fact, some of the math of how pink slips work almost requires that more pink slips are given out than there's any expectation will actually be fully executed. You're saying that even after we were to pass what you're asking us to pass tonight, we moved from the day before you would rescind the layoff notice, the day after you would rehire the person. So that's all part of a statutory process. That's the water you swim in, and it's well understood inside, but I think certainly very upsetting for the employees no matter what. I mean, getting a pink slip's incredibly unpleasant, and getting actually laid off is even more unpleasant. I want to pull away from that though, because I think it's really important that people here, or the people who listen later, understand from the practical point of view, from the operating point of view, there's a process that started on March 15th that goes all the way to the start of school and beyond, of assessing the needs of the amount of students we have and who we put in those classrooms. And you're constantly evaluating tomorrow, next week, a month from now, the day before school, 3 days after school, and these employees, whether they're on the list on next Wednesday or not, this is not a final decision that's irrevocable, that you're going to keep evaluating that based on the enrollment as you see it and the way all this trickles down. So I think that's the important thing to say. It sounded more like a statement than a question, but my leading question is, would you agree with that, Dr. Kelly?
I would. We are constantly assessing enrollment. I think it's important to understand that as a matter of practice, SMMUSD hasn't done what other school districts do. And given kind of what potentially might happen with the budget, it may be something, but to our favor, when someone in my seat, or when I tell a principal, based on your enrollment projection, this is what you're getting in terms of your staffing allocation. We don't pull back on that if enrollment comes in under those projections, unless we're able to do so by attrition. Someone at that particular site, or someone may have requested involuntary transfer. We don't necessarily do that. We let them stay with the allocation that they were given, unless we're able to do it in a way that doesn't compromise what we've already told them we've had. That's not always a practice that school districts do. I was a teacher in Los Angeles, and I remember that first Wednesday in October, what they called Norm Day. Once the enrollment numbers were finalized on that first Wednesday, lots of teachers were shifted all throughout the district. It was highly disruptive, but it was also fiscally responsible. So we have, as a matter of practice, once we give the staff, the principal, the allocation, we let them plan and prepare based on that. And only if we see a really marked change from the enrollment projection. And by the way, it could be if there's a market increase, we would add staff, because they're entitled to it based on the staffing formula that the board adopts as part of its budget decision, finalizing its budget.
Great, thank you, Dr. Kelly. So, seeing nothing else, we will go to our public comment, and Ms. Lieberman.
Yes, we have, I believe, 25 speakers. So according to our rules, then that means they each have 2 minutes. So I'm going to read 3 at a time so that people can get ready, and however this works behind the scenes, they are effectively in line to speak. The first 3 speakers are Emily Arms, Mark Cullen, and Noah Goldsmith.
Thank you, Ms. Lieberman. Good evening, Dr. Drotti, President Keene, and board members. I'm here tonight to oppose all teacher layoffs and propose 2 alternative ways for the district and board to address our serious budget shortfall. Though now Dr. Drotti has stated that the number of pink slips have been reduced from the original 46, make no mistake about it. Laying off any teachers, even 10 to 15, will still have extremely adverse consequences for the quality of education of our students. It is especially painful for residents of the city of Santa Monica to watch this, as we have voted over and over and over again to tax ourselves through multiple bond measures that never seem to fix our financial woes. Of course, I'm aware that our district status has recently changed to basic aid and that drastic cuts must be made to balance the budget. But I echo what Council PTA President Claudia Seizer said, keep the cuts far from the classroom. It does not seem fair for teachers to pay the price for the district and board's unchecked spending over the last several years. If, as Dr. Drotti notes, enrollment has truly been declining since 2013, yet the district kept hiring more teachers, why is that? Where was the oversight? I would encourage the board members who were here 7 years ago to address this. Therefore, I'd like to propose that the $7 million in cuts not be to classroom teachers, aides, literacy coaches, speech pathologists, counseling, community liaisons, and any other position with direct impact on students. In particular, I ask the school district, Dr. Dradi, the Board of Ed, to consider my 2 suggestions. Number 1, please eliminate all special projects like the PBL High School at Olympic Campus and its administrators, or even better, completely close all under-enrolled campuses and consolidate students to other schools. In a worldwide recession and district budget crisis of this magnitude, it is customary for local districts to close certain schools. Dradi mentioned this. This could net us a huge savings of millions of dollars. I'd like you to seriously consider that. Second, please reduce district management and senior staff, redundant administrators, unnecessary technology positions, and I'd like to ask that senior district administrators accept a 20% salary reduction until this budget crisis is resolved. Many leaders around the world are taking pay cuts or foregoing their salaries to save their employees. Our district leaders must do the same.
Thank you, Ms. Goldsmith. So for public speakers, if you do, your time is up, so so we can be respectful to all the people that need to speak, please finish your sentence, finish your thought, and then wrap it up so we can get to the next speaker. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Mark Cullen, followed by Noah Goldsmith, and then Sarah Rodriguez.
Hang on, he's having trouble. Oh, I'm still muted. Maybe.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, shit.
Mark, we can hear you. Mark, that worked.
Who's coming up?
Mark, there you go.
All right. Laura, I want to donate my time to Laura Ford.
Okay, but Laura, so how that would work then, when Laura speaks, she would be given an extra minute that you would be donating to her.
Great.
So if that's the case, then we'll wait till Laura and we'll give her 3 minutes as opposed to 2.
Terrific.
Thanks so much, Mark. Appreciate it.
Okay, then the next speaker is, again, Noah Goldsmith, Sarah Rodriguez, and then Max Cornell.
Hi, guys. Good evening, Dr. Dradi, President Keene, and board members. My name is Noah Goldsmith, and I'm a senior at Samo High. I'm proud to be speaking tonight on behalf of Jason Batung. I was fortunate enough to have him as my teacher during my freshman year, and like for many, the beginning of high school was very difficult for me. With schedule changes and 3,000 other students, the transition felt very daunting. But fortunately, I ended up having the opportunity to join yoga. And if you don't know this already, 9th graders are usually not allowed to take yoga, but I somehow became the exception and was welcomed into the class with open arms. As a freshman in a predominantly upperclassmen class, I was absolutely terrified. But JB made sure that I was not only included, but felt like I could really be a part of the group. 5th period became my safe space, where I was able to cultivate my passion for yoga. And JB's ability to understand the needs of his students, as well as the expertise as a yoga teacher, was and still is extremely inspiring. And 4 years later, I'm now working at a yoga studio, and I plan to receive my teaching certificate in the fall. Had I not had this initial experience with JB in his yoga class, this would not be the case. Firing such a kind and understanding teacher and mentor would be a massive mistake. As a graduating senior, I can only hope that SMM-USD will ensure that future students will have the opportunity to study with Jason Batung, a truly gifted educator. Thank you.
There's a Sarah, I know I saw you on here earlier. Sarah Rodriguez.
Hi. Good evening, Dr. Dradi, board members, community members, parents, students, fellow teachers. I hope each of you is doing well. I'm a Samo High teacher. I'm here to ask you to do the right thing. Some non-negligible number of SMM-USD teachers and other staff, including speech language pathologist assistants, are on the verge of being laid off. in the midst of the most socially disruptive public health and economic crisis in living memory. We need to save their jobs, rescind all the layoffs. Even in the best of times, layoffs of teachers hurt students. And with all due respect, no FTE versus student enrollment graph changes that. Please consider the direct and indirect impacts the loss of numerous well-loved, dedicated, and passionate teachers and other staff have on our students. Even in good times, we know that losing teachers hurts students. But in the midst of a pandemic with so many unknowns, it seems to make even less sense to let go of teachers now. Relationships matter now more than ever. And so does having the human resources to enable us to have flexibility in terms of designing schooling experiences that will work, given whatever public health guidance we will be navigating in the fall and beyond. At a time like this, the needs of our student and community must come first, not the dictates of the deficit. Given the enormity, the sheer scale of economic devastation we're confronting as a nation and as a globe, I've got to say that a few dollars of budgetary savings seem trivial. People have to be the priority at a time like this. But here's my most important point. This is a generation-defining moment, and a moment that calls for moral clarity. Our school district is not an impersonal behemoth like LAUSD. Our school district prides itself on being like a family. The teachers I know whose jobs are on the line are members of our Samo High family. We make sacrifices for family. So I plead with you, take the budgetary hit and keep your teachers employed so that they can sleep at night, so they can continue to afford health care for themselves and their families, so they do not have to navigate the horrible position.
Time's up.
Of being unemployed, looking for jobs that likely won't exist in the foreseeable future. No teacher or SLIPA layoffs. Thank you.
Max Cornell, and then Katerina Valentina Merlot.
Do I unmute? There we go. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm going to echo a lot of what Sarah just said, but I wanted to just share. I teach 7th grade humanities at Lincoln Middle School. This is my first year in SMM USD, and even though my wife has taught at Smash for 15 years, I was still impressed when I began to see the district from the inside. As an employee and to be part of a team of dedicated experts whose driving mission is to improve the lives of the students, it was a very rewarding feeling. But as a new member of the district, obviously I was first in line for a pink slip. And as you can all imagine, it's not fun to get that news. I have 4 kids of my own, 3 of them still in the district, and I'd hope to stay there with them indefinitely. In any other year, I would understand pink slips as a budgetary necessity, but this is not any other year. This is an unusual year, and it's a next year that we're all grappling with. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what it's going to mean. And facing that unknown without a job is a burden that I wish I didn't have to bear. So I hope you can find it in your heart and in your budget to ease the burden on me and my fellow SMM USD employees who have their own families and their own pink slips to worry about. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Katerina, and then Claudia Bautista Nicholas, followed by Abigail Arms Johnson.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you, buddy.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Katerina Valentina Merlop, and I'm one of the teachers who intend to lay off despite the #1 skipping criteria being whether a teacher teaches immersion. I am and have been an immersion teacher here at this district since 2008. I worked at JAMS where I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade immersion social studies classes. I now teach modern world history, economics, and government to the immersion students at Samo High, taking over for 2 incredible icons, Daniela Escalera and Jaime Jimenez, who retired last year, making me one of 2 remaining immersion teachers, true immersion teachers at Samo High. I have a vision for the future of this program. There are only 4 teachers that teach social studies for the entire immersion group from 6th to 12th grade. We have a unique opportunity to create a comprehensive ACES-aligned immersion curriculum that can build upon itself and flow from the beginning of man to modern day. Using this new approach, we would have the ability to tell one cohesive story that runs throughout history, since we get the privilege of having the same group of kids throughout the years. This is a rare occurrence in the education world and would be a gift in terms of providing a new level of continued perspective and insight via the study of history in this way. The redesign of this curriculum could help retain students and would make the relevance of history more apparent than ever before. My colleagues at SAMO and JAMS agree and are on board. I am the only teacher who has taught all but one social studies class at the secondary level that the district has to offer. My unique experience has given me the ability to spearhead this redesign, and in its opportunity, I would relish. So while yes, I am technically only teaching 2 sections of immersion this year, and yes, I broke service for 13 months in 2018 so I could stay home and raise my baby, I believe the skipping criteria should apply to me, as I am an essential part of the immersion program. And the
Time is up.
Okay, I'm finishing up. And the letters from many students, parents, and teachers that you've received prove just that. By removing me from this district, you will not have only lost a chance to develop this unique curriculum, but you will be effectively killing this admired program. I ask you to rescind my notice to ensure the continued viability of the immersion. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we? Claudia Bautista Nicholas, Abigail Arms Johnson, then Parker Lauer.
Hi, hello. Am I unmuted? Yes, okay, good. I am reaching out today to you as the immersion coordinator at Samo High, and I'm doing so because my program is in grave danger at the high school. When I started teaching at Samo High, we were a department of 4 Spanish teachers, 3 social studies teachers, and 3 math teachers. Despite the fact that we were a small program, our students graduated with biliteracy and bilingual diplomas that served to open many doors for them throughout the world. In the past few years, we have lost math and Spanish classes. In this coming year, we fear we will lose the rest of the social studies classes. A year ago, we lost Jaime Jimenez and Danny Escalera to retirement. Both had been in the immersion program since its inauguration at the high school. Their loss was a huge blow to our program. However, Kat Valentina Merlot, who had been teaching at the middle school and had been Jaime Jimenez's student teacher, was coming back from maternity leave. We were thrilled that she was available since she is a fantastic history teacher and trilingual in English, German, and Spanish. She loves teaching and understands the special nature of our program. She has a vision for the potential that it can become a world-class program in the near future. This year, we sent students to some of the finest universities in the country, including UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC San Diego, UC Santa Cruz, UC Merced, Cornell University, Barnard University, Columbia, and Harvard. And may I also add MIT Engineering, which is the toughest department to get into in the country. Our students are rock stars. We teach them social justice standards throughout their education, and we encourage them to choose to participate in their communities. They graduate with a sense of community and empowerment that help them achieve the stars. If we lose Kat Valentina Merlot, we will lose the final link in our immersion pathway chain. She teaches our 10th and 12th grade courses in social studies. Without her, our students will lose this valuable program.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Might want to think about. Abigail Arms Johnson, Parker Lauer, then Jackie Stansberry.
Hello. Yes. Hi. Can you hear me? Good. Yeah. All right. Great. Good evening, all. My name is Abigail Johnson, and I'm a senior at Santa Monica High School. I take Yoga PE Period 4 with Jason Batung, better known as JB. Yoga is in extremely high demand at Samo High, with wait lists every year to get into the class. As the only yoga instructor, JB has been teaching at Samo High for over 10 years. Students past and present have benefited tremendously from JB's yoga instruction. And to further his education, JB is currently finishing his master's degree at LMU. I can only say I wish I took his class sooner. JB is one of the best teachers I have had, and it would be unwise to remove this dedicated teacher from Samo High or remove yoga from the PE curriculum. But what JB teaches us in class doesn't just stay in the classroom. He prepares us to live healthier and more mindfully, even after the year is done. Accessible to all students, regardless of AP classes and honors, JB's main goal is to utilize repetition of poses and stretches to commit yoga to our muscle memory so that we can transfer it home and create our own sequences. So we don't need a yoga mat or expensive studio membership. JB transforms the class into more than just a general PE credit. JB creates a unique community that allows students to learn and connect differently from other groups on campus. We learn lifelong skills and lessons from him: how to maintain healthy relationships, stress management, learning from others, accountability, discipline, and mindfulness and awareness of our own actions. JB urges us to remember the legacy we leave on Samo High and on the world. During quarantine and moving forward, the values and practices learned in JB's yoga classes are the most relevant. SMUSD has said itself that mindfulness needs to be more present in the classroom environment. Removing JB and yoga from Samo High would be a step backward. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Parker Lauer next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, my name is Parker Lauer and I'm the student body president at Santa Monica High School. I'm here today because my job is to speak on behalf of the students. We, the students, would not be who we are without the incredible efforts of our teachers. They are our advocates, our mentors, and the foundation of our support system. As a current senior, on my way out, I want to take a moment to thank all the teachers who have not only taught me the skills I need to be successful in life, but the tools to speak up for those in need. As many have stated, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So the least I can do is stand before you today, urging you to do everything possible to keep our teachers, like my ASB teacher, Miss Paulus, in the classroom. I recognize how complicated the budget issues are, and I can't imagine the countless hours you have spent dealing with the challenges thrown your way, particularly ones relating to the pandemic. However, like my history teachers have taught me, it is in the time of crisis that our strong leaders emerge. In the time of crisis, we unite to maintain what keeps our communities together. Please be the leaders that will do everything in their power to make sure our teachers are the last ones to go. Thank you.
Jackie Stansberry, followed by Laura Ford and Maya Lauer.
Jackie, are you here? Hey, Lori Lieberman, I think we should skip Jackie for now and see if she gets back in the queue.
Jackie, and if she appears later while we're still on this item. Okay, then moving right along, we have Laura Ford, who has 3 minutes now. Then Maya Lauer and Sarah Barrett.
Sarah Warburg, did you get that the speaker has 3 minutes? Thank you very much.
Hi, okay, can you hear me? Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Laura Ford. I am asking you to please rescind all teacher layoffs. This is why. We should be able to retain teachers with Measure R funds. The stated purposes of Measure R include a, quote, to sustain achievement in reading, writing, and mathematics for all students at all grade levels, and to fulfill the district's core curriculum, which includes music, arts, and athletics. And B, quote, to attract and retain highly qualified teachers, end quote. 2, $6 million of Measure Art monies are unallocated for next year. You can't just say now that it's going to teachers. That's creative accounting. Per Ms. Kennedy, the plan was to dump $6 million into the general fund before I brought it to her attention, and yours, guys. That's illegal. That $6 million is for our teachers. It can and it should be used to save our teachers. 2 or 3, I don't know. $67 million of Measure Art funds have not been itemized for the past 10 fiscal years as per the audits. I have read all of the audits. Per Ms. Kennedy, this money was dumped into the general fund every year. That is illegal. Why should our teachers be punished for this misuse of funds? Why do they have to bear the brunt of your inability to manage your resources and your inability to know the rules of Measure R? Guys, let's face it, you're busted. You could pass the buck back and forth and hide the fact you've been misusing these funds for 10 years. Use that money to rescind these pink slips, or there will be a good chance that A, State Auditor Elaine Howell will swoop in, or B, you're gonna have a class action lawsuit on your hands and make us even more broke. So please rescind these pink slips when you re-adjourn. Thank you.
Maya Lauer, then Sarah Barrett, and then Sarah Tropia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Also, I just want to say I'm sorry for interrupting my sister's speech. Okay. To the members of the board and Dr. Drawdy, my name is Maya Lauer, and I am a senior at Santa Monica High School and a proud immersion student since kindergarten. I'm here to speak in support of our teachers and against the proposed layoffs. These teacher layoffs directly affect the immersion program that has been the source of my success and the success of many students in our district. While I don't believe in any of these cuts, one comes close to home, Ms. Valentina Murlov, who is set to teach immersion world history and immersion econ and government next year. Cutting Ms. Valentina Murlov or any immersion teacher would be a grave mistake. Qualified immersion teachers, which includes Ms. Valentina, are hard to find and should be considered highly specialized positions and indispensable. I implore you all to continue to recognize the importance of keeping all of our teachers, especially from our outstanding Spanish immersion program. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Barrett, then Sarah Tropia.
Should I unmute myself? Is that okay? Are you good? Just unmute. All right. Dr. Drawdy, President Keene, members of the board, parents, teachers, and students. My name is Sarah Barrett, and I'm speaking on behalf of Gavin Wallace, a PE teacher at Lincoln Middle School, and Sarah Paulus, an English teacher at Samo High. I know that cuts need to be made, and I'm hoping that all the teachers can be saved from pink slips this year, especially in the current situation we find ourselves in right now. Our kids need their teachers now more than ever. Coach Wallace lives by 5 rules in her class and in the world. She teaches those to the kids too. Number 1, always have a good attitude. 2, don't blame others or point the finger, because there's always 3 fingers pointing back at you. Number 3, well, I'm just gonna say read between the lines, because I think you all know what number 3 is. Do not swear, you're better than that. Number 4, make a promise, a commitment to always do your best. And number 5, always look out for the little guy. These lessons help everyone. My daughter has been lucky enough to have Miss Wallace this year, and letting her go after 8 years with the district would be a huge loss to Lincoln's PE department. Sarah Paulus takes on much more than just teaching, as if that isn't enough. She jumped in wholeheartedly to take on the activities director role when the English department needed someone. She knows our kids and helps them through this crisis and the crises that our kids face being teens in the 21st century. She starts every day with unity. They are a team. She creates lessons with students' interest in mind. Her students feel loved and heard. She makes English enjoyable. And most importantly, she never hesitates to support my daughter and all the students at Samo High. We rely on our teachers to be there and to guide us. We need them even more right now. Please
Time
keep
is up.
us out of the classroom. When we can be our best and bring good attitude, then we can do it. And by the way, happy Teacher Appreciation Day. Show them you care by not cutting them, please.
The next three speakers are Sarah Tropia, if I'm pronouncing that right, which I'm probably not, Gentrix Georges, and then Mitchell Lester.
It's Trope, but no one gets it right, so don't worry. I am a third generation Santa Monican and a 1991 graduate of Samo High, and a parent of two fourth generation Santa Monicans who are attending John Adams and Samo High. My daughter had a great freshman year this year, in large part because the teachers are exceptional. So you can imagine her dismay and my dismay when three of her teachers received pink slips this year, including Lucas Capra, Sarah Paulus, and Kyle Kohler. I have been told that Kyle Kohler's pink slip has been rescinded, so thank you for that, but the other two remain. And while I don't want to speak because I think the cuts across the board are not appropriate at this time, I'm going to speak specifically as them, the ones who I know personally. Mr. Capra was incredible as Scarlett's art teacher. He effectively engaged 14-year-olds to discuss really sensitive topics. Mr. Capra really connects with students and they enjoy going to his daughter. Learned a ton and really honed her debating skills. She kept us on our toes at the dinner table every night. And we look forward to him continuing to teach history in the years to come. Continuity of teaching with the same teacher over several years is something that all students can benefit from. And as a member of the Frosh girls soccer team, Scarlett had the privilege of being coached by Miss Paulus. Miss Paulus is incredibly warm, kind, and dedicated to her players. And she created an environment in which the girls strive to grow as soccer players, students, and as people in general. She counseled Scarlett through a broken arm and helped her make the most of a shortened season. In addition to coaching and teaching, Paulus took on the activities director role when asked. I understand from those in our English class, she was equally talented in connecting with and teaching in the classroom as well. These, like I said, are the teachers that our family knows, but I know there are many other talented teachers whose jobs are on the line. And while I recognize the reality of the budgetary crisis, I'm very disheartened that the district and the board seek to address our financial shortfall by cutting teachers, our most valuable resource. There has to be another way, because at the end of the day, technology, experimental programs, and any of the other numerous other expenditures that are not being are a little import if our kids don't have enough talented teachers to keep class size reasonable. So I implore you to look at other areas to make cuts, but don't cut our teachers. This is especially so in light of the pandemic and the likely need to maintain social distancing requirements when and if the kids return to school. Thank you.
Gentrix Georges, Mitchell Lester, and Melissa Solano. Sarah, is this person here?
What's the name again?
Gentrix Georges. I may be butchering the pronunciation, but
I don't see that name.
okay, well then let's skip that person and go to Mitchell Lester, then Melissa Solano, and Rebecca Haggerty.
Hello, can you hear me? I guess you can. Yeah, I've never spoken out at a school board meeting before, so this isn't really something I've done a lot. Maybe I'm representative of some of the people who don't show up at these things too much, but I would just say that it seems like the frustrations I hear a lot are that there seems to be a loss of sight about what's important here. I mean, you can have the best buildings and best technology and the best administrators in the world, but unless you have a connection between a teacher and a student, the students are not getting a good education. You know, they're not making that connection because of school class sizes or what have you. And the reverse is true as well. You can have a terrible broken down building and terrible administrators, terrible technology, but if those teachers are actually connecting with the kids and stirring up curiosity in them, then they are getting a good education. So I guess I understand why the approach should be, it seems like, to preserve that connection first and foremost. That should be the priority than anything that the school board does or making any decisions. And so when you're protecting the connection, that's number one priority. Then what's the second priority, third, fourth, fifth? And then when you make cuts, you start cutting from those outer priorities and work your way inward. So that hopefully never touches the teacher. I guess I don't really have a good sense about what those priorities, how we prioritize it. I mean, I like the charts. I appreciate that, Mr. Superintendent. I didn't see any expenditure charts on what we're spending the money on, because I might lay out like, what are all these priorities that we have and why are we cutting from them before we get down to the core with what matters the most. So I'll just end by asking a question by Mr. Keene, who I thought you brought up a really good point. We were talking to the student at the beginning of this meeting, which felt like it started a couple of days ago. But you said to them, they went and spoke with Ben Allen, and you said it's great that when you talk to people, you speak up, people will listen. And so I guess my question for you guys are you going to listen? Thank you very much.
Oops, thank you. Melissa Solano, Rebecca Haggerty, and then Joan Krennick.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board, and good evening, Dr. Drotti. I'm calling a state of emergency for our small community and ask that you rescind the pink slips for Jamie Hammock and stop the involuntary transfer for another fantastic teacher. Dr. Drotti, over a year ago, you came to our school and shared your vision along with the planning committee and painted a picture of reassurance that we would benefit from combining the two schools into one. We would never experience combined classes, nor would we experience losing faculty due to budget cuts. In my opinion, combining schools is considered cutting a budget already. You said all these things, but yet after our community experienced a devastation, your actions are going to kill the Malibu schools. We need TLC. This is unjustifiable, especially in the time of COVID-19, where we face a massive enrollment because people may not be able to afford private parochial schools anymore. If the government can help with providing funding to American small business owners, etc., Sacramento can step up and give aid towards the need of educational funding. We all know this is an issue because funds were mismanaged by the district, and who suffers? The children suffer. This is the future of our society, and do we really want to set them up this way? Do we really want to set them up for failure? My daughter is Isabella Solano. She's 6 years old and a student of Jamie Hammock. Jamie's taught my child to read. With so much excitement and passion, she's taught my child to be a problem solver, but most importantly, she has encouraged my child to be a little eco-hero and activist she is today. These sentiments are shared with our students and their parents. She's given her compassion and provided her comfort. She shares the same values, is committed to nurturing all of her students with so much joy and passion. I know she will be that teacher. Every student holds a special place in their heart, just like we as parents do. Teachers like Jamie are few and far between. She has gone to all of your paid-for workshops and volunteer where needed to show her commitment as an educator and SMM USD teacher. This is not just about fighting for our teachers. This is about fighting for the right of the academic future and education for these children. I'm a new parent at MESS, so I cannot speak for the glory days that once lived. I can solely speak for the glory days that will need to exist as MESS and our community. I have voiced my concerns to you all once before. My family is the minority in this community, and I want to see all walks of life have the privilege and opportunity to attend our schools. I could read between them. If you remove
Time is up.
teachers and combine several class sizes and max out class sizes, we then leave these permanent kids out in the cold. Do not combine class sizes and do not maximize these classes. This is an injustice to these teachers and these students. We are not educators. We are their
Thank you for your comments. After we do Rebecca Haggerty and Joan Krennick, Jackie Stansberry has emailed us and says she just couldn't get her voice to be heard. So let's have her after those next two speakers.
Thank you. I'm Rebecca Haggerty. Can you hear me? Thank you. My name is Rebecca Haggerty. I live in Santa Monica and I'm the parent of 2 kids in Santa Monica schools. My kids have had wonderful teachers and benefited from counselors, speech pathologists, and other personnel directly related to the classroom. I have also voted for every single measure, and there have been so many, right, to raise funds for the school. So I'm coming tonight with a simple comment, and that is please do not fire or reduce teachers, literacy coaches, counselors, speech pathologists, community liaison, or any other positions with direct impact on the classroom. This is the wrong time to lay off classroom personnel. In the wake of COVID-19, classrooms will have to change, probably smaller class sizes, reduced schedule. We cannot afford to have fewer people in the classroom. People move to Santa Monica because of the strength of the schools, right? There will continue to be declining enrollment if the education suffers, and education will suffer without teachers and others in the classroom. Our community relies on this. I would urge the board, do not eliminate these positions. Many speakers have brought up other choices. There are other choices to make to reduce funding. Some of those include restoring Head Start, right? Using federal funding and taking the district out of funding pre-K. Some of them include eliminating non-essential district consultants and saving money there, not investing in additional ed tech, perhaps increasing the number of students who come in from outside the district, reducing capital spending. I don't understand, if we have a declining enrollment and people have known about that for years, why the district embarked on huge, expensive capital improvement projects. Looking at under-enrolled schools and campuses, and the suggestion made by Emily Arms, who I believe was misidentified, that the administration look at taking a serious pay cut, as have many other people. Time's up. I will close by repeating, as a parent and resident, I implore you, do not fire teachers, literacy coaches, counselors, community liaisons, or any other positions with a direct impact on the classroom. Thank you.
Joan Krennick and then Jackie Stansberry.
Hi, my name is Joan Krennick. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Sam High PTSA. I'm on several district committees, and I've been a long-time active district parent. It's hard to believe that just over 2 months ago, I left the Sam High Theater Tech rehearsal to attend the school board meeting about the proposed staffing cuts. Since then, we were fortunate to have a hugely successful showing of Addams Family, and then just a week later, be thrown into chaos and stay at home. It's hard to fathom the changes that have occurred during this brief time, and hard to picture the changes we will likely have to face us in the future. It's an overused statement, but we're in unprecedented times, which may require unprecedented action. I'm conflicted because of the many committees I've been on. I'm aware of the financial situation of the district. And I agree with Claudia Seizer that we need to do whatever we can to do more to educate our parents about where we are standing. We were already facing significant budget cuts and difficult decisions due to the unanticipated financial impact of basic aid, becoming basic aid, the through-the-roof increases in benefits costs, and the costs related to the lawsuit and subsequent additional expenses to the district, among many other things. Now we are likely facing the loss of local revenues. The timing couldn't be worse. We know you have to make tough decisions, and we know you cannot kick the can down the road given that LACO has mandated cuts be made. But please, please do whatever you can to limit the impact on our students. Focus on keeping the cuts as far from the classroom as possible. Everyone has said this very eloquently tonight, and I can't really say enough, but our teachers are the heart and soul of this district. Let's look for creative solutions. Difficult times are ahead, they've just started, and we need to support our students and our teachers. So I urge you to do whatever possible, but I also recognize you're in a bad position, so good luck.
Thank you. Jackie Stansberry, Seth Jacobson, and then Sarah Ryan.
Hi. Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. Can everybody hear me? Hello? Yeah. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear. It's not a great connection, Jackie, but
I'm speaking on behalf of two teachers, Kat Valentina. Okay, thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of two teachers, Kat Valentina Merlot and Jason Batung. I also have a general comment. The immersion department at Samuel High cannot afford to lose Valentina Merlot. She is an integral part of our program whose skill set is irreplaceable. Teaching immersion is a highly specialized endeavor, and there is no teacher currently at Samuel High who can replicate the work of Ms. Valentina Merlot. Immersion is one of our district's great programs and should always remain a budget priority. So I just want to underscore that in terms of all the budget issues that you're thinking about, immersion should remain a priority. And then regarding Jason Baton, on Tuesday, March 17th, my daughter received an assignment from her yoga instructor. She asked to borrow my yoga mat. 2 months later, the mat has not been returned. Thanks to the wise and calming influence of JB, as the kids like to call him, Juliet has maintained.
Here's Lydia still here.
I know Erica's here.
Erica here? Let's go.
Still here. I'm still here.
Oh, Lydia's here too.
So before we start my time, I just want to make a little joke, but we all have our ways to cope with those long meetings where I eat a little chocolate and Richard has a clock that's stuck on 8 p.m. the whole night behind him. So in any event, we can start my time now. I would like to bring your attention to the Measure R budget again, and the lines particularly that pertain on page 2 to the expenses due to ISP implementation. I believe Measure R cannot pay for support staff. There's almost 30,000 there. And at best, you're spending 42K if I add up the things right on this sheet, or 150K. I can't make sense of what's going on with the secondary expenses at Adams, Lincoln, and Malibu. These packets that were requested by Dr. Dradi were to make sure that the kids were accomplishing the PE standards, as if those would not be accomplished by swimming 15 hours a week or dancing 15 hours a week, but could only be accomplished by juggling or doing something else. So on March 2018, all the parents commented at Dr. Morris' presentation of these packets that it looked like double PE, and it was completely ridiculous. And in fact, not only was it ridiculous for the students because they had to miss home base, they had to do extra stuff every week, and they had to complete written packets. It caused a lot of stress to everybody. I really don't know. At Lincoln, there were 10 sixth graders that decided that ISPU was still worth it for them after that. And that's a lot of money to be spent to implement a program that was free for the past 20 years and was absolutely no trouble. So I basically would like to ask that we remove these packets along with the expenses that come with them. I see that in Dr. Dradi's proposal of reduce the expenses. He does say on page 30 that he is going to not pay the PE teachers anymore to support this madness. I'd like to know if that is directly connected to the fact that for this coming school year, there will be no more packets, and I hope there'll be never, ever any other packets yet. Hopefully Dr. Dradi can get over the idea that kids that are passionate about their sport and dedicated can achieve the PE standards by completing the program they describe on their application. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, who do we have? Erica is next?
Erica's next, sorry.
Erica Leslie?
I'm here.
Thank you, Erica, for sticking it through.
All right. At our IEEDAC meeting, if everyone's not familiar with me, I'm the co-chair for the Intercultural Equity and Excellence District Advisory Committee. And we voted to pass a resolution, and here it is. It is that be it resolved that the central principle that should guide the restoration of education for our students is their health. and academic achievement. In doing so, we ask the board to ensure that all the decisions promote equity. And on a personal note, I just want to say I commend you all for making these very difficult decisions. I thank you all for the time that you guys have committed to making sure that this is a thorough decisions that you guys are making. I know this is not easy, not at all, but I thank you for doing so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Hello?
yes, Erica.
Okay. That's all I had to say.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had a second part. I'm sorry. I thought maybe there was part two.
No, I'm not a long speaker.
We're all kind of paralyzed.
No, I thought you might have had a part two. I'm so sorry.
No part two. No part two.
So
no part.
Thank you.
That's it for general public comment, I believe, Lori, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Any board member items? I know it's late, but I'm just going to shout out Samo High. If you didn't see the YouTube honors assembly that they did, that Dr. Shelton and team put together, it was wonderful. They recognized all the kids. They gave out the awards. They announced the valedictorian candidates. And I'm really looking forward to see what Malibu has coming up to recognize their kids. It was a lot of fun. They're missing a lot, but it showed a lot of spirit. So kudos to Samo and Dr. Shelton. Anybody else? No continuation, no members of DAC. Any future agenda items? All right, we got a lot done tonight, y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for sticking through in the audience. Thank you, staff. Thank you, board. Let's go home, but we are. See you all in the parking lot.